Hello, hello. Welcome back to a slightly twisted female talking about all of the weird shit going on in the world and the dumpster fire that is the internet and all of its associated transhumanistic hellscape. Today we will be discussing finally Phil Illy, the center of AGP Gate with Genspect that has basically splintered the gender critical community into a pile of sawdust. One thing that's been interesting is how much AGP Gate has really revealed how much sort of ideological inconsistency there probably truly always has been within gender critical circles. And a lot of this has come to a head, and it's been, disheartening to see just how many people I think we realize that we really can't trust to fully hold the line. And it's also revealed, as I predicted, that the true trans Trojan horse is well within the castle walls, and the Trojans have jumped out and have begun infecting the stronghold from the inside. And we are watching everything just sort of succumb to this invasion. um and Phil Illy is really just the manifestation of that huge gender critical divide that's really been raging for a while. Last year, maybe like a year and a half ago, it really centered around Stella O'Malley and her allegiance to the one true, fucking whatever his name is, who pretends to be like good. There is no such thing as good trans. There's no such thing as true trans. And, we used to think of, like, somebody was saying how I did a live stream yesterday about a couple who has had their 14-year-old child stolen from them by the state, and that state is Montana. Montana is a red state, and that should horrify everybody because it lets us know that there really is no bastion of safety or reason or sanity anywhere in this country. And why? It's because the conservatives, as spineless as everybody is, have had not a backbone and have succumbed to the true trans infestation, but through the likes of people like Blair White and Buck Angel. So as far as I'm concerned, anybody who believes that, some people are really trans and that there's like a true gender dysphoria and transition is okay for adults, you're a TRA. It's literally that simple. You're a TRA. You belong on the TRA side, and the fact that people are able to sort of co-opt these gender critical talking points only muddles it for the more like casual observer. And a lot of people are confused about where the line is, and to me, it's like it's almost to the point where I just want to just be like, it makes you want to give up. For real, because I literally had just gotten off the phone with Jennifer Thomas, and it's just kind of like, who do we even have anymore? Who is a leader? You got like Megan Murphy, who's some best friends with Benjamin Boyce, and Benjamin Boyce who's platforming Eva Korolova, and Megan Murphy who's platforming Eva Korolova who's best friends with this total troon, and then Exelanzic, who I think has been a total disappointment and is really TRA light. Jumped in on this whole AGP gate. So for those who haven't been, living under, or have been living under a rock, back in November, Genspect, which aims to replace WPATH, and WPATH, which is the World Professional Association for Transgender Health, it was originally the Harry Benjamin, Association for Trans whatever. Now WPATH, which sort of sets like the world protocols for, quote unquote transgender health. This is an organization that we never needed before, but it's created, and it's really been like ground zero for injecting this sort of transgenderism into really all levels of society, and has been responsible for the transition of children and so many other things, so much horror that we've seen. Genspect aims to be, to replace WPATH. As far as I'm concerned, Genspect to me looks like it's controlled opposition. So it sort of co-ops these like gender critical viewpoints so it can control the gender critical narrative. That's what that's always been about. Right? Because if gender criticals were really, able to just take over, we had a fighting chance to actually take out transgenderism. But then you have people like Buck Angel and Blair White and Stella O'Malley and that whole group of minions and Helen Pluckrose and all of these other, wishy-washy, the artist Bertie Rose, all of these like half-assed fake GCs who, again, are really just like the gender critical side of the trans rights movement, right? Have sort of dominated that narrative, and people are now seeing, the true like pure gender critical stance as being extremist and stuff like that. It's not extremist to be firmly rooted in reality. There's nothing extreme there. We don't need to compromise with lies. We don't need to compromise with Bertie Rose has always been a bullshit person. She uses, she, again, co-ops women's language and gives it to men and then gets mad at other women who object to that. Fuck all these people as far as I'm concerned. They're all dangerous, and if you're not holding the line, you really might as well be a TRA. You really might as well be a TRA. And that's not an extremist position. It's the fact that this is so critical because as we're having these conversations and as we are fighting this out, history is being made. Laws are being passed. Things are being embedded into our schools' curriculums that are being, taught to our children, that are being taught in schools. Protocols are being written, guidelines are being written, and if we lose this battle or if we compromise this battle, it's going to change the outcome of all of this forever. And it will be so hard to undo it. That's why we cannot afford to compromise. Not now. I heard a really good quote where somebody said, firefighters put out the fire and then ask how it got started. Okay, they don't sit there and try to analyze, well, how did things happen and kind of get into, the nitty gritty and well, let's discuss it and let's debate it until the fire's been put out. And let me tell you, the fire is not put out. It is raging on. It's to the point where, again, people who are like a true gender critical position are being painted and outcasted within our own movement as being extremists and, radicals and stuff like that. That should tell you a lot, okay? I don't trust anybody who's taking some bullshit fence-sitter position. You know what I mean? I don't use, as far as I'm concerned, you're a TRA. Point blank, period. This whole, well, I'm not going to control other people's speech. And if people want to use preferred pronouns, I respect it. Bro, get the fuck out of my, house then. You know what I mean? I'm not saying, again, and it's like, and people are like, oh, how is it, like, it's just... Anyway, it's really aggravating. I could go on and on. So we're finally going to talk about this Phil Illy clown that is at the center of the whole, that really is, this whole situation has reverberated out so much. And that's why I think Stella O'Malley is so vile in what they did. So again, in November, Genspect, who is basically like WPATH 2.0, it's controlled opposition against, the real WPATH. So it kind of makes it look like that they're, creating like a more thoughtful, gender critical organization. It's full of the same academics who ushered in gender theory to begin with. They just appointed Helen Pluckrose, who is like really like a certified TRA. And it's Stella O'Malley, who prioritizes the voices of AGPs, and all these sexologists who want to destigmatize things like pedophilia and autogynephilia. And that's like what their concern really lies. I hosted a conference in November where, I guess it was like $500 a ticket to listen to a bunch of like self-important like academics speak. And this guy, Phil Illy, basically came and he peddled his book called Auto Heterosexual. And it's like, it's like men like Phil Illy who have like a decent vocabulary maybe, and because I don't know if it's because he's like a man and he like speaks with like confidence and maybe he's a little bit charismatic if you're into that sort of thing. Uh you know, and he's able to kind of speak with what sounds like academic jargon and people like buy into him and like, oh, he's really intelligent, bro. Like, no, no, it's basically he's like found a way to intellectualize all of his like most severe sexual degeneracies. And he's talking about normalizing it and like, you know, and I don't understand how that's a gender critical position whatsoever. So he went and was like passing out free copies of his like degenerate book. You have all these idiot, you know, these like idiot academics who are like, it's a wonderful book. It's essential reading to understand autogynephilia. No, we don't need to learn. We don't need first of all, he's not an autogynephile. The only reason that he claims to be an autogynephile is because he's a histrionic clown who needs more attention and he likes to stir up drama. Clearly, he's actually literally a clown. He's a clown performer, like by trade. So, you know, again, he needs to have all this sort of like negative attention. Same reason that he wears a dress is because he likes the shock value. He could just do it at home. He could just do it at the nightclub. He could just do it, you know, in social settings with other adults or at the bar. But no. He wants to come to the conference, the gender critical conference, and get everybody upset. He knows what he's doing. He's like, what? I don't understand. You know exactly what you're doing. People like Stella and like Benjamin Boyce being like, oh, it's so like, it's like just playing in everybody's faces. He's not an autogynephile. There are important differences between autogynephilia and fetishtic transvestism, and we're going to get into it now. Then we're going to get into some of his readings, and we're going to get into some of these idiot academics who decided to platform this clown and like legitimize him as like a leading intellectual voice. It's like, how stupid do you guys have to be? This guy is just wants to control the narrative. He just wants to control. That's like asking like pedophiles, like, hey, how should we set up safeguards for children? What do you think is best? And they're like, oh, here, let me tell you. This guy is an apex predator. And you're a fool if you can't see it. Every single woman who immediately identified him as being an apex predator was accurate. They were shunned. They were told that they're extremists, that they're like, you know, the poor mans are being oppressed. The misandry of it all. They can't wear what? They just want to be able to wear the dress. Sir, your desire to wear a crushed blue velvet prom dress is not more important than women who are responsible for the care and safeguarding of children to be able to quickly visually identify where the threat is. And if you insist on crossing those social boundaries, then we have every right to look at you and identify you as the threat that you are. And every other person who's like, oh, what's the purity spiraling? You're all in this for the wrong reasons, okay? You're in this for the views and the likes, and so that, you know, people like Eva Kurlova can go speak on Megan Murphy's stupid panel with a bunch of other self-important clowns can all get like, you know, paid to talk about, like pretend as if there's some sort of like authority or expert on stuff. Meanwhile, the whole movement is going to hell because you guys can't hold a goddamn line to save your lives. And we're all sitting around congratulating each other and patting each other on the back for a job well done. Meanwhile, the people who are leading the gender critical movement are Blair White and Buck Angel. They're like the two like foremost voices right now. You guys are failing catastrophically. You have lost the purpose of what's going on to the point that I'm like, I don't even know where I am anymore. So let's go through the difference of transvestic fetishism and autogynephilia. I think it says a lot about this guy that he wants to insist on the fact that he's an autogynephile. It's like he wants to be the villain, you know, like the cool villain. That's what, like, you know, he likes being in the center of the controversy and stir up the drama. It's for attention so he can peddle his book. And all these idiots are lapping it up, like Stephanie Winn. It's so funny for me to see all these, like, Genspect adjacents, like Stephanie Winn, who are these, like, therapists, all this, like, soft sciences, like, liberal arts, like, bullshit, whatever, who you guys are the ones who created the affirmation only model, okay? So why in the fuck should we trust literally anything else that you say about anything? Your profession has lost all credibility. But we're gonna go listen to Stephanie Winn, who has a bunch of like letters at the end of her name, and it's from the same academic swamp hellhole that started all this shit in the first place, and you guys are gonna be the ones to lead us out of it? Yeah, I don't think so, and you're doing a fucking terrible job. So, let's get into it. All right, so we're gonna first go through what the actual Blancharddian original theories of autogynephilia is, and then we're gonna go through fetishistic transvestism, okay? And then we're gonna go through some of Phil's BS. So let's just get into it before I like bang my head against the wall, because I'm just aggravated as fuck. All right. Adulcat says Illy deliberately contacted women who are detransitioners. He gave them copies of his book claiming autoandrophilia is like AGP. Hey, Karen. Karen says, this is why the same people are looking to start petitioning elected officials and major marketing media periods. Now, respect to me, do it just happen to me about it. Yeah, we need, no. And it's like, it's like, Karen, honestly, what I'm realizing is like, we can't depend on any of these people to do anything. It's really in our hands. It's 100% in our hands. Adulcat, you're absolutely right. So Phil Illy, and I'm telling you guys right now, I'm going to make myself real big for this, okay? You guys can look at all of my wrinkles and pores, okay? Phil Illy's whole shtick, and we're going to talk about this too, he gets off on being fucked by women with like sexual role reversal, okay? His whole thing is he likes being pegged by females, so he'll purposely target these low self-esteem, mentally ill women who have like gender issues so that he can groom them. People like we already heard from what's her name, Laura Becker, who is obviously, riddled with addiction. She talks about smoking crack. You got Laura Becker, who goes on Genspect, a wider lens with Stella O'Malley, and is talking about going on crack and meth binges. And Stella's like, oh, yeah, well, what do you, okay, what do you know about that? Or whatever the fuck her Irish accent is. And it's like they're all just kind of acting like this is normal and everything should be like equally, listened to. Why are we having Laura Becker, who's still so obviously mentally ill, up on any panel to begin with? It's one thing to try to like analyze her and through a filter, but to have her like lead us through, same thing with Phil Illy. We don't need these people to be like guiding voices. It makes no sense. And the fact is, again, this guy is sitting there, targeting women. People have come forward. This guy, Phil Illy, is like, I don't know if he's a current meth addict, but he's addicted to methamphetamine. He has this whole really dark, again, this is, whatever you see in public, the fact that he's willing to do all of this in public only lets you know that this is just the tip of the iceberg. It gets a whole lot darker and deeper down below. I promise you. I promise you. He's 100% his just like the Adulcat said, 100% his aim is to target and groom vulnerable women like Laura Becker, who's sitting there talking about like, am I still based? Like, am I still based if I jerk off to the fantasy of fucking a twink? Does that still make me and I'm like, bro, clean yourself up. Where are the people in the people's lives? And they're just handing over these clearly mentally ill, beyond mentally ill, drug addicted, like porn, deranged women to these apex predator men. And be like, oh, it's all about, academic, whatever. Oh, shut up, Stella. Stella honestly needs to be everybody's top. She is the most dangerous person, I think. I think Stella O'Malley is actually one of the most dangerous people in this entire thing. I think it's like she's a wolf in sheep's clothing in every single way. And these people always have to be like, oh, but she's been so helpful.
Oh, Stella O'Malley! I can't say anything bad about Stella. She's been very helpful to families. No, you've got her all wrong. You've got to stop with this purity spiraling. Stella O'Malley has done a great many things. You're just jealous. You women wish you could be like Stella. She has accomplished a lot. First of all, these people have to start off as being helpful. Okay, Genspect started off as being like a organization that was one for the most vulnerable people, which are the critically vulnerable parents of critically vulnerable gender confused children. That's where they started off. And then they started to like go and start talking to sexologists and AGPs, and they think, oh, we need to hear from these degenerates so we can know how to safeguard against them. And that was never the purpose. It's about controlled opposition against WPATH. It's the same academic spiraling and this sort of like intellectual rumination that's disconnected from reality that got us here in the first place. Stella O'Malley is dangerous. Stella O'Malley is going to create this sort of like gender critical like this like, you know, outward appearance of a gender critical organization that really is just going to serve as a life raft to keep the gender industry alive. I think she is one of the most dangerous people because, again, gender criticals support her. They cannot see her for what she is. Some people do not have the critical thinking skills to recognize, somebody like that and the threat that they pose. So here we go. And again, shout out to Karen Davis for, you know, her relentless expose of Genspect and all of those actors and her refusal to back down. Like, shout out to that. At this point, those are the only people that I want anything to do with, okay? I don't care if they come off as crass or whatever the hell. I only want anything to do with women who are absolutely like ruthless and relentless and who do not care, who don't need to be liked, they don't need to be popular, they don't need to be, you know, politically correct or polite, but who are like absolutely unwavering in holding that line. And we'll do it to the death of them. And we'll go down as the bad guy. We'll go down as the villain. You know, and refuse to budge an inch. Anybody else, I don't have time. I don't. All right, so the concept of autogynephilia and the typology of male gender dysphoria. Again, this is just the original Blancharddian. My biggest deviation from Blanchard's views are that I don't think that every homosexual is somehow like a separate thing. His idea was that all homosexuals were like a homosexual transsexual and that they didn't have autogynephilia. Clearly, there's even more videos that I wish I could pull up of Brianna Ivy that show how much of an autogynephile that man is and how much a lot of these gay men really are autogynephiles in every significant way, except, you know, the only difference is their, you know, sexuality and their sexual target is men exclusively. But everything else is the same. They want to be fucked like women. They want to, you know, sexually experience womanhood, whatever. The live's 23 minutes in, but it'll go on for a while. All right, this is from PubMed, the concept of autogynephilia and the typology of male gender dysphoria. Again, this was published in 1989, a year after my birth, by Ray Blanchard. Okay, and this has always been like, you know, when we talk about AGP, this is what we're talking about. Okay, we're talking about autogynephilia, and that's what AGP means. Okay. Oh, sorry for 1 second. I still have you up here. Okay. Gen X-Ray says, I have to see the problem is the people who only want to focus on the kids. Yeah, people are like, oh, adults can do what they want. Then this will never go away. As long as you're saying adults can do what they want. You know, no. Because adults can't do this stuff on their own. Right? If they could just do it on their own, that would be one thing. No, but they need the participation of everyone around them. Nobody can be trans in a vacuum. This is what I always say is the extreme and important difference between homosexuality and being trans. Trans requires societal participation. It requires the participation and the affirmation of people around you. Okay? Being a homosexual requires no one's participation. It's just something that is, right? It's just something that is. And, you know, being trans requires the disordering and the dismantling and the reordering and the reorganization of society, and our understanding of what's true and what's real and what's not, and a suspension of, you know, disbelief. Homosexuality doesn't require those things, okay? Nobody has to agree or care or participate or give a fuck or have any involvement. It is, right? So anyway, so the abstract, and that's not to say that, like, you know, like the LGB has not been participant in ushering all of this shit in, because it's absolutely a gay dating strategy for both men and women. Let's be all the way real, right? But of course, you know, the homosexual men and homosexual women still have a different ideology, even if it is like a dating strategy on some level, you know, with women trying to desexualize themselves. Anyway, all right, so this study tested the hypothesis that all gender dysphoric males who are not sexually aroused by men, homosexual, are instead sexually aroused by the thought or image of themselves as women, autogynephilic. Hold on, this is annoying. Sorry. Subjects were 200, but again, it's like, how is that any different from Brianna Ivy? Brianna Ivy, again, who's like going out with his like big plastic tits and his like really weird button plants, you know, and this like hair hat that's sewn into his head. You know, he's got these huge spider eyelashes glued into his eyeballs, you know, big, like, you know, fake lips and all this stuff. And he's just sitting there, he's like going like this. And he's all like, you know, and like this and stuff. And it's like, how is that not, you want to be fucked like a woman? The way that you don't want to have sex with men as a man, right? You want to have sex you want men to fuck you as though you were a woman. It's the same thing. Are instead sexually aroused by the thought or images of themselves as a woman, autogynephilic. Subjects were 212 adult male to female transsexuals. These were divided into 4 groups, 1 homosexual and 3 non-homosexual. The 3 non-homosexual groups were heterosexual, bisexual, and anal-erotic, unattracted to male or female partners, but not necessarily devoid of all erotic behavior. But what does that mean? So basically, like what? Like auto heterosexual, kind of like Phil Illy. A core autogynephilia scale was developed to assess the subject's propensity to be sexually aroused by the fantasy of being a woman. The 4 transsexual groups were compared on this measure and on several others using Newman's Kuhl's multiple range test at p less than 0.05. As predicted, all 3 non-homosexual groups were more likely than the homosexual group to report sexual stimulation by cross-gender fantasy. More likely, though. They didn't say that the homosexuals were like devoid. They were more likely. Which again, and I think it speaks to the fact that there's more complexities to the homosexual transsexualism. I think that some homosexual transsexuals are autogynephiles, but I don't think that every single one necessarily is. I think sometimes it can have stuff to do with, like, you know, trauma, and can be rooted in like homophobia that they've experienced, and bullying and trauma, and wanting to sort of escape the weight of being gay, and how that can, you know, people's reactions to that. Let's see. As predicted, all 3 non-homosexual groups are more likely than the homosexual group to report sexual stimulation by cross-gender fantasy. This finding supports the hypothesis that the major types of non-homosexual gender dysphoria constitute variant forms of one underlying disorder, which may be characterized as autogynephilic gender dysphoria. Dysphoria. All right, let's see. All right, let's see. Read gender dysphoria. Hold on. Becoming what we love. All right, so Lawrence was another. Partial versus complete autogynephilia. Varieties of autogynephilia. Okay. I want to find the one where he talks about the difference. There's an inherent difference. So transvestic fetishism and autogynephilia are not the same. Okay. Transvestic fetishism, which is what I believe Phil Illy is. I don't think he's an autogynephile. I only think that he likes to claim autogynephilic for the shock value. He likes to enter gender critical spaces and scream about how he's an autogynephile so he can get all the like ooh and ah and oh, and people can be scared and intrigued and interesting, and then he can be this like leading voice in explaining what it's like to be an autogynephile. It's like, bro, shut up. And he's, if you really look at his typology, he's not. He's a fetishistic transvestite, in my opinion, right? In my lay opinion. No One's Home says, I'm black and always feel black. Homosexual transsexuals have this unhinged hatred for black women. Even gay black men want in our black female spaces but want to control us in the space. Well, I see that all the time in Philadelphia. Those are some of the dudes that scare me the most. Like I said, those are the men who will fight you and who will get like competitive with you, like sexually competitive with you, and they'll sit there. It's even like Brianna Ivy. They'll sit there and come after your looks and get like real. It's like this like masculine like aggression and stuff like that. And when you think about it, it's even like a lot of the like when you think about like a lot of the like you know, female rap, like that kind of like aggressive like portrayal of black women, when you think of like people like, you know, like Nicki Minaj and like Lil Kim and the way that they like going at each other, and you know, Lotto and all of these people, I think there's such an influence of like black homosexual transsexualism and even like this sort of drag influence. And you look at who are the stylists, who are the producers on these like, you know, shows like Baddies East. Well, I mean, that's women who are producing that. But I think originally there was a huge sort of underlying influence of gay men who were creating that whole aesthetic, right? And it's very masculine, and they create like women as like this, like portraying them as aggressive, and created this sort of archetype that they're like feeding into black women that I don't think is accurate. You know what I mean? I don't think that that doesn't originate with black women. I think it originates with gay men and homosexual, transsexual men and things like that. And they're the ones sort of like behind the scenes sort of sculpting that whole thing. And those are the type of dudes who will fight you. I'm telling you, they are scary. You're right. You're absolutely right. They're scary, you know, and yeah, try to control the space, control everything. It's like, yeah. The relationship, Gen X-Ray says gay black men are also reacting to the homophobia from black men, so they think being female gives them a shield, which they can push being a big mouth aggressive black woman. It's yeah, and it all originates from these like male archetypes that they create and then push onto women. The relationship between gender dysphoria and autogynephilia, erotic arousal. So again, this is the varieties of autogynephilia and the relationship to gender dysphoria by Ray Blanchard. This was published in June 22nd, 1993. Comparative study of archetypal sexual behaviors. The relationship between, this is the abstract, the relationship between gender dysphoria and autogynephilia, erotic arousal in men is so, yeah, like, and you know, again, when we're talking about like gay men, we're not talking about, it should always go without being said that like we're not talking about everybody. It's just that these are like trends that we're seeing. Like Kai is, you know, obviously like somebody who seems like he listens and is like sweet and all that kind of stuff. The relationship between gender dysphoria and autogynephilia, erotic arousal in men associated with the thought or image of themselves as women, was investigated. Subjects were 238 non-homosexual male outpatients divided into 3 groups. 94 reporting that they were most aroused sexually by images of themselves as nude women. 67 most aroused by images of themselves as women in underwear. And 77 most aroused by images of themselves as fully clothed women. These were compared on questionnaire measures of gender dysphoria and other psychosexual variables. And again, this is where you see the difference with Phil Illy. Phil Illy, and let me show you what he looks like, is a man in women's clothing. That's what gets him off. I think that he really likes his andro form, right? His andromorph, which is like male form. Hold on. like if you break down the words, right? So like gyneandromorphophile is somebody who's attracted to trans-identified males, right? Men who have taken on like these like female secondary sex characteristics. So I've broken this down before. Gyneandromorphophile. Gyne, female, andro, male, morph, which is form, phile, which is like philia, which is like sexual, interest, right? So it's sexual interest for a gyneandromorph, which is somebody who has both male and female physical characteristics, right? I believe that I don't see any attempt by Phil Illy to actually take on any female form, right? We don't see him trying to take on the actual body of women. In fact, he's this like, he's like in the gym and develops his male form. He likes seeing his male form in female clothing. That's what gets him off. That is the primary difference between transvestic fetishism and autogynephilia. Autogynephilia is primarily rooted in the sexual interest in having a female form to some extent. For some men, the target is different. Some men are more focused on having female, anatomical bodily functions. So there you have some men who like to simulate having periods. Those are the men who are on TikTok like, oh, I've got my period. Oh, and they're like putting like heat packs on. There's literally things where they're like how to stimulate a period. Period, like menstruate. They literally have these like ways that teach you how to simulate it. Period pain simulators. Now they can meet period pain simulators. Period pain relief company some days has created a product which sends small electrical impulses directly to abdominal muscles, causing it to contract in a similar way to how prostaglandins induce muscle contractions during menstruation, according to its website. Oh, and USA Today is trying to like pass it off as though it's just to like teach men how to empathize with us. Yeah, I'm sure that's like the real like root of why. Like, come on, bro. Like just a lack of critical thinking. Here we go. How to simulate a period. So gross. But yeah, and it's like, no, Dylan's way skinnier. If you're talking about, yeah, the bicep, the like form, yeah, oh God. And that's the thing. And then you have people like Blair White, who was lucky because he was always this sort of like twinky, soft-bodied, gay dude. So he was able to kind of like, get his hormones to work for him. Like, look at this. And of course, this is allowed on YouTube. But we can talk about like women's issues. So this is one form of autogynephilia. I want to start off by saying I hope that you can all be respectful about this video. No, we won't be. Menstruation is something natural that is constantly associated with being a, quote, woman. Therefore, it is completely normal for all women to want to experience this sensation. I hope you can appreciate it.
Hey guys, it's Brie. So today's video is going to be a little bit different from pretty much
all here we go. Handmaiden extra. This is by a woman. And this is called How to Simulate a Period for Transgender Women. I'm sorry, but these AGPs could not get to where they were if it were not for these handmaidens paving the way for them. Look at Stella O'Malley. Stella O'Malley is giving them like a red carpet right into the gender critical movement. And then you got, idiots like this. Come on, bro.
The other videos I've done. I was contacted very recently, like a day or two ago, by a lady who told me that she was a transgender woman and that she was trying to find a way to kind of simulate her period because, as far as I'm aware, women who are transgender can't actually experience periods naturally. They haven't found a way to make that possible. I don't believe. I did try and do a little bit of research, but I couldn't really find anything on it. And
so Callie Girly 69 says it's weird. I could talk all day about the men's motivations for doing this kind of crap all day, but I'm at a complete loss with women. And I think with women, it just comes from being a pick-me. It's women in patriarchy who are under these sort of misogynistic systems. It's the same thing that, like, for example,
like in colonial times, right? So like during the Spanish Inquisition, when the Spanish had taken over like the Incan Empire, they would pick out a certain few Inca people and install them as sort of leaders over their own people. So they were kind of like in a special position, right? And they got special privileges that came with that. They got to avoid certain aspects of being oppressed, and they got special privileges, by the sort of oppressor class, right? So that's what these women are looking for. They're looking for the pat on the head, the cookie, and the special, get to sit up front next to, mom sort of thing, right? I get the special seat, and I don't have to, it's just a strategy to sort of overcome, whatever, the oppression of these dudes. Like, you can't beat them, join them. Help them, facilitate them. Then I can be extra special, and then I can get picked.
And there didn't seem to be any information on whether or not a transgender woman could menstruate. But at the moment, I don't believe that's possible. I'm just going to go down a bit. Good thing about sitting on stools, I can go up and down. But yeah, I offered to help her, and I thought while I was at it, I might as well just make a video out of it and put it up here, because maybe it would help some of you guys too. So I'm going to do how to kind of create some fake menstrual blood that you could put either on a pad, or if you are a transgender woman who's had her genitalia changed, so from a penis to a vagina, then you can also try maybe using a menstrual cup. And there is a way to do it that I found, so I will show you that. For those of you who don't really know, a transgender woman is someone who was born male, but identifies as being POF, and other alternatives with this, if you don't mind getting them stained. So to make the fake menstrual blood, you will need some water. I've just put some in a mug.
I'm sorry, but like, how depraved do you have to be as a woman to sit there and help give like a how-to guide for some of the most sexually depraved, predatory men in our society, so that they can, engage more deeply with one of the most vile fetishes that target women like that we've ever known. Second really only to pedophilia and that associated, or like the extreme sadistic paraphilias. And you're sitting here making a YouTube guide. Like, it's mind-blowing.
Black food coloring and red food.
Oh my God, that's so true. Susie Glucksman says, I guarantee there are women selling their tampons pads to these creeps on. Oh my God, I guarantee it.
Coloring.
I guarantee it. And
also corn flour. I tried to use everything that was edible, because I figured if it was edible, you could also put it in your vagina.
That's yes and no. So DC Isaac says a lot of people are also just completely ignorant to the fetish aspect. Every person I tell about AGP immediately flips on churning. Yeah. But some, I've had to say that some get offended where they're like, oh, how dare you say that's not true? That's who they are. And, just because they have a sexuality, just because they want to feel beautiful, don't you like to feel sexy sometimes? Just because they feel sexy wearing that was the whole core of the AGP gate, where it was like, everybody's like, what's wrong with a man? If he feels sexy and he feels good and confident, what's the problem? It's like, oh, he's feeding a fetish. Like, some of these people just can't connect. But, like, I hear you.
Seemed like it wouldn't be dangerous. And then I'm also going to use
Debbie Hayton. Why do I can never think of Debbie Hayton's name. David Hayton. Exactly. And it's like, that's why, again, having these men, and they are controlling the narrative. And the more that we let them speak, the more that we platform them and put them at the center of our gender critical conversations, the more that they're going to dominate this narrative. Karen Davis says, how are any adult human beings this stupid? It is, we're in hell. We are in hell, guys. We've made
plastic
it.
cup so you can see this better. So, start off with, I'm going to take 3 tablespoons of water. 1, 2, 3. It doesn't matter if it's...
Oh my God. Here we go. Just a little preview. Yeah, I'll speed it up.
The camera. I'm just going to leave that there. And I'm just going to turn this finger. I'm going to mix this up. Take my gloves off. Mix that. Not right now. So it should be this kind of like, hang on, turn the camera down a bit. So you can see here, it's this really kind of dark red consistency. Then I'm just going to add in 1 to 2 drops of black. So 1, probably 2 realistically, but I started with 1 because black is a very, very strong food colouring colour. You can see there, it's nice and dark. And that is.
At what point are you not just thinking like, what am I doing here? what am I doing here? What am I contributing to culture and society? Like, what is my goal?
The effect you're going for. And actually, I might still add in 1 more drop. Okay, we're done with the black. Mix it up again so that it's really nice and dark. And I do actually have, if you were kind of grossed out about blood, I'm not really sure why you're watching this anyway, I have saved...
No, I have it sped up. That's why her voices sound like that, because we don't need to sit here for 12 hours. But I just wanted to get through it.
Some of my blood from my cycle this month. I only remember to do this on the 5th day of my cycle, so I was very, very light. But this is what I kind of held on to. So you can see it's really dark. It's surprisingly dark.
Ew! Ew, that's her actual menstrual blood. She's using a cup of her menstrual blood. She knows that's what I held on to compare it, to make sure that it's realistic. We're in hell. We are in hell, folks.
Small teaspoon or tablespoon of this fluid. You can kind of see that, yes, it's one of the red, but they are both very dark. Menstrual blood.
Yeah, feel free to, do your thing on the video.
A lot darker than many people think. So that's the kind of comparison between the two. So to show you how it would look on a pad, I'm just going to grab one of these Always Overnights out and just stick this down on the table here. And open the wings up. So here I'm just going to grab 1 tablespoon, and you'll see this is about the, well, actually a little less than that, so we got the average amount one woman would bleed on a regular day, maybe if she had a regular heavy period, between 3 to 4 hours. So this would be the amount you'd need just for 1 pad running session. I would always change my pads every 3 to 4 hours when I was using disposables. So I'm going to pour some on. I'll add some more because it's an overnight pad. And I would always bleed in the middle here, and then kind of trail towards the back of it. So just do a little trail here. That would literally be what mine looked like. So you can sort of determine the pattern of how you bleed. Some women bleed right to the front of their pad, some women bleed just in the centre, some of them always bleed to the back. It's determined by which way your cervix is kind of tilted, really, but you'll figure it out very quickly. So you can kind of determine where you want to bleed, and also how much liquid you make will determine how heavy a period you have if you're going to simulate it. So I put it on about that much, and then I'd wear it, and if it feels bad, you get the right sensation. That's what we all have to deal with. And now I'll just go through my hands. So yeah, that's the one cup this might work with, and I tried it out with, and it did work, was the Femicycle, because of its no spill rim, like you can see here. So this is the best cup I discovered, and what you have to do is put the little rim thing in.
Oh my God. She's basically teaching them how they can fill it up in this thing, put it up inside of their stink ditch, and so that it'll leak out onto a pad throughout the day. Like, or I guarantee you, for the ones who haven't had the SRS, are probably just sticking it up their ass. We're in hell. We're in hell.
Another tablespoon of fluid. Do it over this, of course, and then pour it into the cup. Okay. Let me get that last little bit in there. Now, this is designed to be a no-spill cup because of this. There might be a drip or two, but basically you can turn upside down and it won't leak. So I tried doing this yesterday by folding it up to insert it into me, and I squeezed the rim like so. Hang on, let me zoom in a bit. I squeezed the rim like this, and then I folded it over like this and kind of held it loosely. And you can see I can still fold it whilst keeping all of that liquid in there. I inserted it, got it open, and I could leave it in me and get up and walk about.
Helena Blavatsky says, does this chick think men need help with their fetishes? Apparently they need a lot of help, because, man, there's a lot of women who are, assembled and on board to assist.
And then actually put my finger into the little loop, take it out, and then, my body had actually warmed up the fluid. Within
this is
next completely clear, it won't be same. Like, if you're going to use the menstrual cup, I've just washed it, so there's my sink. The menstrual cup, if you can add some egg white into here, so just crack an egg open over the bowl.
She looks like she's like 14. Like, how old? She looks like an absolute baby.
And pour between the shells, holding onto the yolk. Then pour some of the egg white into this, and you'll get that kind of clear, cloudy consistency.
Oh my God. Judy C says Phil wants to do consulting for AGB kids and their parents normalize AGP. He needs to be stopped. Do you know where I can get more info on that? Like, send me, tell me where to look.
On a heavier day, there will be quite a good amount of clear liquid in there. It's just a mixture of cervical mucus and also lining of uterus. They make kind of like clotty egg white consistency. So you can add some egg white in there. I did do it yesterday, it looked very good. Unfortunately, I can't show you.
She's saying to add some egg white. Okay, we're done. My God. So anyway, so again, AGPs, real AGPs, are obsessed with the idea of, again, some want the body, the secondary, they want the breasts, they want the butt. Some will focus on a specific body area. Some will focus on, so you have men who focus on lactation. Then you have some men who focus on menstruation, some who focus on lactation. So trans woman lactation. So you have like nominal Naomi. Again, and these women, you have some women who will, again, all these handmaidens who just allow these men and who enable these men. You have some handmaiden women who will hand over their newborn infant to be sexually abused by people like nominal Naomi. to be fed some sort of, drug-addled, like basically nipple discharge to their newborn infant so that their, boyfriend or husband or whoever, this AGP, can get some sort of a sexual thrill off of their newborn. How sick do you have to be? They always say, and it's the same thing when you learn about addicts, like drug addicts. No drug addict exists in a vacuum. If you really look at a drug addict, you look around them, you realize, like, there was this one, I actually was going to go and do a video. I found this, like, one woman who's this, like, hardcore, I think, like, fentanyl addict, and she like really kind of goes into like kind of how like gross her life is, and it's like, but she like claims she's in recovery, but it's like still like glamorizing it as if it's cute, and she like named herself Methadone Barbie. And again, I think it's just another iteration of people who just have no direction in this. They don't know where they belong. They have no values. They have no, where it's like your whole identity is about being this like drug addict and like showing how cute it is, how our room is disgusting. And I get that we're supposed to have, listen, I've lost a lot of friends to drug addiction, so I understand how heartbreaking and horrifying it is. But there is also a severe level of coddling and enabling that allows people, adults, to get to this level. And this stuff doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens with people, and again, when I watch more of her videos, you see her mother. This woman is a 33-year-old woman. Her mom is still buying her Christmas presents and paying for her. She's like, yeah, I had to go through my room. She's living in her mom's house. She said she had like a mountain of fentanyl bags all over the place and had to like shovel them out. And I'm like, your mom's allowing you to live like this? But behind every like degenerate is an enabler. I'm sorry. Behind every single one, there's an enabler. And it's the same thing with these men. They can only get as far as women will support. And it's like these men with the lactation fetish. The only way that they can get their hands on an infant is if a woman hands it over. Right? It's like, my God. Let's see. Here we go. Like real quick. This is what autogynephilia is, though, and it's not what Phil Illy does. Okay, these are the men who are interested in the actual bodily processes, bodily shape of women. He's interested in the clothing. He is a transvestic fetishist, and again, I think the only reason I think it's significant is it shows how narcissistic and histrionic he is. That he needs to enter the gender critical sphere amongst women and boast that he's an autogynephile, and everyone has to just listen to him. You have all these so-called academics who haven't even called that part out, that you actually don't fit the criteria of being an autogynephile. If you're trans, you can be a mother, you can be a parent, and you can even breastfeed your kids.
Most people assume that only cisgender women can breastfeed, but medical research and anecdotal
Oh my God, this is from Pink News, of course.
Evidence proves this is not the case. In fact, we know that trans women can successfully breastfeed their children, and that the milk they produce can be just as
No one's obsessed with you, but let's talk about obsessed, Ruby. Also, you're definitely next. But it's interesting how you pop up.
Let's talk about obsessed.
It's interesting how pop up. My room does not look like my room is covered by posters of me doing boots on the ground work to defend women and children, Ruby. That's a whole lot different than you sitting around smoking crack out of your thing, sweetheart. Like, so yeah, no, I don't think so. My room, my gorgeous house is quite all right. Like, I'm not sitting here, like, it doesn't matter. What we're gonna do a whole video on you, and honestly, I wasn't even gonna do it, but like, fuck you at this point. What is this? Here we go.
Women can breastfeed.
Trans women can breastfeed.
Natural bonding parts of motherhood. Trans women who do breastfeed typically take hormones to help their bodies produce milk. The milk they produce might be different.
It might be
from a mother
different.
who
Yeah,
was
it's
born
probably a moob
But there needs
puss.
to be
Yeah,
more
it might be
studies to
different.
make sure the milk that these babies are drinking
Did book a
help
flight to
body's movement.
Copenhagen.
These
Yeah, and it's like
functions-
exactly, and it's like sis, it's like again, it's a weird projection. It's like because she like tried to come for me or whatever, so then I checked her, and it's like it's funny because when you come for these troons, they'll call you. It's like these people like the way that they try to cope is by calling you what they are, what you're like pointing out that they are. So all the troons that you point out, they're like, no, you're a troon, you're trans, hi, you're a tranny chaser, you're an autogynephile, and you're like, no, that's you, and same thing. It was like she tried to come for me, and I was like, this is how you're living, and it's like she's not serious about getting clean. She's like a few months clean, and like the whole channel is like glorifying like talking about like trying to make it look glamorous, and it's like the whole like 90s heroin chic aesthetic, like as if it's cute and funny. Her mom's still paying for everything for her. Talking about how her mom sold her car to send her into detox again, and she's like, yeah, and I go AWOL every time. You can't keep me there. But anyway, my mom came to pick me up and we got my nails done. Like, bro, what? Like, and it's just, to me, it's just so sad and sick that like this is our generation, and there's so many different manifestations of like the uselessness of people in our society. But again, behind every degenerate is a bunch of enablers. The mom in her case is clearly like a captain enabler. Okay. And yeah, and of course, like her projection is like when you point that out, she's like, oh, well, you seem like you've been in the rooms and you seem like you smoke crack. Yeah, do I really, Ruby? Do I really seem like I smoke crack? Like, is that accurate? No, that's a you problem. It's not a me problem. Not everybody lives like that. You feel me? Not everybody's a troon to all the troons. Not everybody's, a crackhead. Not everybody's, saying she's like, talking about how it's like cute and funny that she was prostituting herself to get more drugs. She's like, one thing about me, I can pull up $200 in a day to get my fix. If I got to go hop on the live cam or go hustle, some sex. It's like, bro, no, some of us are actually like functional in society. You know what I mean? Some of us actually like have some like self-standards and self-respect. And I'm so sick and tired of my community. And it's like, and I get it. We need to have like some like compassion and empathy. And it's the reason why I have a lot of compassion and empathy for detransitioners who are really trying. I think there's a lot of detransitioners that are bullshit, that are like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And they want the attention of being detrans, but they really don't get it. And I think that there's so much crossover between gender dysphoria and addiction. I think that there's so many similarities, and it's the same thing. Somebody who is really putting an honest effort into recovery and who is well recovered before they start trying to talk to people and guide other people, and who take it very seriously, and they're not trying to make it look cute and funny that you're living, in squalor at 33 years old, and you have a face full of makeup. You've got, your hair highlighted, you got your nails done, and you're showing images of your room looking like a literal crack den, squatter village, right? I don't think that's cute. I don't think it's funny. Go get yourself some real help. Realize, like, stop leeching off the people around you. Get away from your mom. She's obviously not helping you. She's keeping you sick. A lot of people keep you sick. And it's like, and I've seen people who have gotten, very few people get better from fentanyl or heroin. Very few people get better. I've had people live with me. I've taken care of 2 different heroin addicts, doing everything I could to get them better. One got better, one didn't. Okay. I understand how hard it is, but it's like when you're still stuck where you're telling war stories, when you think it's like cute and funny. I've gone with people. The reason why I understand how like what is it? AA, and the other one is what? NA, Narcotics Anonymous. Yeah, I've gone with people, of course. I've seen this stuff from the inside out, okay? I've gone and visited friends in rehab, and I've known which ones were serious, and I've known which ones are total degenerates. I have my best friend of all time is a hardcore alcoholic, and I worry for her every single day of my life, and there's only so much that I can do to help her. You understand? And I understand the toll.
And so laughing along like it's funny and having all these cool little edits and cuts to make it sound like glamorous and cute. Nothing's cute about it. Nothing's cute about it at all. And a lot of this is, again, it's the entitlement. It's like people are living in this fantasy land where they think that if they can like look cute and interesting and get a bunch of idiots who will like mindlessly cheer them on online, then they're doing great. It's like you'll always find, it's like these kids, people that in real life who are like total degenerates, and they somehow find an audience online who will just sit there and enable them and coddle them and tell them they're doing a good job. And you're like, what are you doing? Stop cheering this on, this despicable behavior. And that's why we see so many people in this generation spiraling off into like the most despicable, self-indulgent, narcissistic, histrionic, parasitic, non-functional, like a perpetual adolescent, non-adult behavior well into their 30s. It's like they're just so disconnected. And again, behind every person who's able to do that is a major enabler or several. And it's like we need to start calling it out. You need to have a mix of compassion, but also no tolerance for the bullshit. And I think that's the most compassionate thing you can do. I think it's a really spineless thing to sit there and be like, you're still doing a good job. It's okay. No, you're not fucking doing a good job. You're fucking up. You're making this China shit sound cute. It's not cute. And I'm only saying this because I actually care about the world around me. I always say this to my kids. I say this to my son like probably on a daily basis. I said, if I didn't care, if I didn't love you, if this didn't matter to me, if this wasn't my highest priority in life to see you succeed and see you be well, healthy and developed and be your highest self, I'd be like, yeah, sure, no problem. Oh yeah, see, that's good enough. You gotta be great. Knowing that I know you can get an A. Oh, B-, that's good. No, it's not good enough. It's not good enough because I know that you're not trying, because I know that you're not being organized right now. And if I didn't care, you think that I want to sit here and argue with you? You think I enjoy that? I want to go lay upstairs and death scroll on my phone and hang out with my boyfriend and fucking whatever. You know what I mean? I want whatever the case may be. You know what I mean? I want to go sit in the sauna for 2 hours. But no, I care about you so much enough that I will sit here and I will be the bad guy and I will hold you to a standard. But I'm going to have your back the whole time. Trust and believe that. I'm going to create the space for you to succeed, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend like it's all good when you're just half-assing it, because it's really not, because you deserve better than that. Okay? And I don't, to me, it would be such a failure on my part to pretend fucking up that's all good.
Moms do something called breast and nipple stimulation.
Bro, I don't give a fuck. Again, I didn't come for this bitch first. The thing is, she's like one of these people who was upset about, and I don't give a fuck if they feel attacked. That's not my problem. I don't need to sit here and be like, oh, we just make her feel good about her addiction. No, you should feel embarrassed. You should feel disgusting. You need a catalyst to want to change. If people feel comfortable doing what they're doing, if they feel like other people are just cheering, saying, hey, it's good enough, then why are they going to change? She came for me first. She's one of those people I think was defending Brianna Ivy and tried to start shit with me and is nipping at my heels. Oh, but then I'm the asshole when I come and take a look at what you've got going on. Bro, I don't care. That shit's not my problem. That's not my daughter. I'll use her as an example for my children one day to about how not to become. But that's not my problem. I'm sorry. That's how the world is. The world will spit you up. It'll chew you up and it'll spit you out. And that's not my doing. My telling you the truth is not what's going to hurt you. You living in a delusion and in a lie and in a fantasy la-la land is what's going to hurt you. That's what's going to hurt you. Sometimes you need to be ashamed and embarrassed and feel fucked up and realize, shit's not okay for the catalyst to change. And I'm not here to coddle anybody. I have 4 children. That's it. I'm not parenting anybody else. I'm not coddling anybody else. I don't care. You come for me, I'll come for you back. Don't play victim. Don't act like, oh, are you being mean now? No. I'm loving. I'm not nice. Please understand the difference, okay? I have, general compassion and love and care. That doesn't mean that I'm a nice person. I never said I was nice. I don't know why the fuck you guys expect me that I'm like going to be like, oh, and sit there and like, carry you through stuff. No. I don't wish harm on people, but I'm going to tell the truth. I don't care if it hurts your feelings. It's not my problem. Anyway, here we go.
And massage their breasts and nipples to tell their body.
Yeah, and that's so no one's home. This can 100% apply to AGPs. If women support them, they will not stop. And why they angry at women who break their fantasy? Our job as women to troons is to enable their fetish. 1000% yes. That is so much why they react the way that they do. They've always glommed onto us and they've weaponized our empathy against us, which is why it's important to have role models like Rex Landy, role models like Karen Davis, like people who can hold the line. Karen Davis is not hurting anybody by calling somebody out and telling the truth. People, you know who's really hurting people? Are the people who are enabling this stuff. And who are like, yeah, and co-signing it all the way to somebody, mutilating their body. Okay? Just because maybe Karen Davis calls people some names. Calls like women broads and calls people assholes. But she's telling the truth and she's going to rip that veil right out from over your eyes. To me, that's compassion. To me, that's the true kindness. Kindness isn't always just being nice all the time. True kindness is like doing what's right and not leading somebody down to hell just because you want to be agreeable. Not interested in that.
They can also use breast
luxury beliefs, 1000%.
When they're feeding. This is a development topic that I'm going to be covering on my channel. So make sure
being too nice is why we're here in the first place. It's been weaponized against women for too long. I'm tired of it. I am from Philadelphia. One day I'm going to take you guys. One day, especially when like my friend, the one dude who's like all tatted up gets home. I'm going to go to Kensington and I'm going to show you what coddled children looks like, what coddled adults look like. Not just child children, coddled adults. Every single homeless person that you see on Kensington and Allegheny, which is like the Skid Row, it is the largest open-air drug and prostitution market in the world. Anytime you see those, like, you guys ever see those clips, those horrifying clips of people who are like literally standing on the side of the street and they're like, and because they're all fucked up on tranquilizers and fentanyl and stuff like that. That is right down the street from me. We see it all the time. Anybody who lives around here, unfortunately, is forced to know a lot about addiction because it's all around. Nobody in this area doesn't know somebody who hasn't been sucked in. And you know who comprises of all those people? These are mostly people who aren't even from the city. These are suburban transplants. These are people who grew up with like nice middle-class families who were very lenient on them, who enabled them. A lot of people who had access to other people's money, who were not ever really held accountable, went down there and they literally just became so self-indulgent that they could never move out of that spot again. Who never had the threat of like, oh, I've got to, support other people, or I've got to, where their only job was just to somehow like 1 foot at a time. And again, this Ruby Spacek idiot, 33 years old, and is like, doing whole live streams about how she like, got up and functioned for the day. And like, I get it. And I would respect it more if it's like, you got a face full of makeup on. You're worried about your clothes and your outfit still. Meanwhile, you're like barely functioning. You're leeching off everyone around you. And everybody's got to like throw you a parade because you like functioned for a little bit. Because you like got up and went to Wawa and like, you know what I mean? You like, cleaned up some of the cigarette butts out from under your bed. She's talking about how she like ashes on the floor and stuff. How dare you? How dare you live like that? How despicable and not okay. And who is enabling it? It's the same thing with these AGPs. They can only get this bad with people enabling them. And it's like, Ruby, I wasn't even going to name you, but you want to pop up, then we'll do the live stream. I was going to let it go. Stop fucking coming for me, bro. Like, I'm not the one. Anyway. All right, so, yeah, so these dudes are breastfeeding, and it's disgusting. It's disgusting. So anyway, back to Phil Illy. He's really a transvestic fetishist, and I'm going to say it again. And not actually an autogynephile. He only claims to be an autogynephile because he likes getting everybody all stirred up. Let's see. Let's see. Hold on, my bad. The relationship between gender dysphoria and autogynephilia, erotic arousal in men associated with the thought or image of themselves as women was investigated. Subjects were 238 non-homosexual, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so 94 reporting that they were most aroused sexually by images of themselves as nude women. 67. So I think this is like, so his first concepts of autogynephilia came out in 89. This is in 93. So I think that this is when he starts to like get into the subtypes. 73 most aroused by images of themselves as fully clothed women. These were compared on questionnaire measures of gender dysphoria and other psychosexual variables. The nude group was significantly more gender dysphoric than the clothed group, which in turn was significantly more gender dysphoric than the underwear group. That's interesting. Probably because the underwear group is probably more of transvestic fetishism. These results support the hypothesis that those non-homosexual men most aroused sexually by the thought of having a woman's body are also those most interested in acquiring a woman's body through some permanent physical transformation. And even like the language, acquiring a woman's body. How does one do that? A secondary finding was that the nude group was the same age as the underwear group and significantly younger than the clothed group. This outcome makes it unlikely that erotic fantasies of having a woman's body are the end result of some progression that necessarily begins with erotic fantasies and wearing women's clothes. So you hear that? All right, so let's read that again. A secondary finding was that the nude group was the same age as the underwear group and significantly younger than the clothed group. This outcome makes it unlikely that the erotic fantasies of having a woman's body are the end result of some progression that necessarily begins with erotic fantasies of women wearing women's clothes. And then let's look at this really quick. It's just important that we really understand what we're talking about when we're talking about AGP here, okay? Or at least how it's being, stated. Let's see. Oh, wow, about Rachel Dolezal being sexually attracted to being black. That's, I just don't think, but women are not, maybe, did she say that? Let me see. Did she say that? Because I just don't think that women have typically don't have the same propensities. Where is it? Where did you say that? Oh, Britt, have you seen his part about transracial Dolezal and she was sexually attracted? Oh, he said that? Who, Phil Illy? And all these idiots who are like, oh, it's a very academically rigorous, but bro, we're gonna read some like clips of the book. I gotta get through this. I gotta stop like going off on tangents. All right, autogyne, because he again, and we're like letting him lead our understanding of autogynephilia, and all of these idiots who are platforming him. Stop platforming him. If you want to analyze him, do what I'm doing. You do it as a secondary thing, or take him as a secondary source, right? You take him and you filter it for the audience. So they're not just like listening directly to him. You're taking the important artifacts after you've like gone through it and you go through it together. So you make it clear that we're not letting him lead the conversation. You can analyze somebody without having them control the narrative. Stop platforming these idiots. Unless you're like debating them, right? Debating them is one way, is like trying to break down their arguments where you're trying to like go against them. People get mad that I debated the one troon. Bro, it was just to juxtapose reality versus insanity. So you realize how actually, like, and the fact that he had no responses to any of my criticisms just shows, it helps people really see like more clearly the stark contrast of the idiocracy. I know why you are not critical of Rachel Dolezal. It's because you are in the same position. Your black boyfriend hates black women. Bro, huh? I'm not, what do you mean I'm not critical of it? I said that women do not have the same propensity for sexual paraphilia as the way that men do. How does that mean I'm not critical of her? I didn't fucking say anything else. I said that the etiology for those things are not the same. Trying to pretend that, like, autogynephilia. No, she's probably, it was because she fucking grew up at a time where it was this like whole anti-white narrative was going on, and it was like everyone was acting like it's all shameful to be white. I remember a time in Instagram, the stuff that people used to say to me, with me having mixed race children, the sort of disgusting things that I had to fucking listen to, and I would never be allowed to say anything back because I would get, fucking kicked off of Instagram or but it was all good for people to say some of the most like racially degrading and disgusting shit ever to me. That's why she did it, for real, for real. It's because she's like had like no self-esteem in being white and was tired of being called like Karen and all that sort of stuff, and was so like racially shamed to the point because she's just dumb and whatever, and felt like she had to like take over, like that sort of narrative to take, and it's narcissism. It's a lot of things. It's her being selfish. It's her being like self-hating. But to pretend like it's some sort of sexual paraphilia, what could Phil Illy says it, bro, get the fuck out of here. Yeah, exactly. No. I'm like responding to somebody else. Anyway, all right, autogynephilia, underappreciated paraphilia. But, and also, don't ever in your fucking life speak on my family, bro. I don't know why you guys think that's all good. I'll literally spend 2 days fucking figuring out as much as I can about you, and I'll drag the shit out of you. Like, I got no fucking boundaries when it comes to that shit. So, like, watch your fucking mouth. Like, I don't know why people, let me see. Hold on. Sorry, my bad. And also it's like I'm the mother of a black daughter, right? Like of a phenotypically black daughter, a biracial daughter, mixed with black, right? I have a black mother-in-law. I have the godmother of my children is black. Why the fuck do you think I would tolerate a man who is anti-black? Why the fuck do you think I would tolerate a man who doesn't respect his own mother and sisters, or doesn't respect the category of women that my daughter is gonna grow into at least being partially a part of? Yeah, like chill out, okay? Like again, like and I've had whatever. It's like just that kind of assumptions is just like trash. No, I believe that autoandrophilia is real. I mean, I think a lot, but I still think that the etiology is different. And I think that it's kind of this, like, I think that like the rise of like female paraphilias has a lot to do with, I still think the etiology is different. And I'm not saying that it doesn't exist, right? It's something that I would need to like really like explore more. And I can't really definitively say one or the other, but like I believe that people like Laura Becker, have some kind of like autoandrophilia and stuff like that. Yeah, and it's like, I mean, listen, I'm not gonna lie, this is also so off topic. I do know white women who date black men who are like racist. I do, and who like really like kind of like tokenize black people. So like I get it. I do. And I know like, white women who date black men who really treat black women like trash. But I'm not fucking one of them. I don't tolerate black women who disrespect me, but that's anybody. right? I don't like, at the same time, it's like, you know, I don't tolerate, like, I won't tolerate I've had black men literally try to up me, who I've like been talking to or whatever, who for and this speaks to the fact that I know that there are some white women who get off on the fact of like black men pedestalizing them over black women, because black men seem to think that like I would think that that's cool, right? That they think that like the way to my heart was like trashing black women to me, as if I'm gonna be like, oh wow, like, yeah, I'm not like that. I was like, bro, you fucking kidding me? I was like, this is done. Like I won't. To me, it's like, you know, if I'm the mother of a daughter who the world is going to perceive as black, right? You put her with a black family and you wouldn't question, you know, whether whatever. You know, she's half African, right? Most, you know, American black people are only about like 70 to 75% sub-Saharan African. So she's half actually African. So it's like, I just, again, I get it, but like having some sort of like basis accusation about, you don't know my fucking boyfriend, you guys never seen him before, I've never talked about him like in any extensive way, other than just because he's dating me doesn't mean he hates black women. I'm the only white woman he's ever like really been in a serious relationship, so like just watch your fucking mouth. Anyway, autogynephilia, underappreciated paraphilia. Autogynephilia is defined as a male's propensity to be sexually aroused by the thought of himself as a female. It is a paraphilia that is theorized to underlie transvestism. Oh, hold on, here we go. Let's, oh, fuck, hold on. Hold on. Okay. Sorry, I'm just trying to do it so I can read it while the thing is going at the same time. It's just annoying. Like, where do I put this? Okay, hold on. Sorry. All right, so... All right, autogynephilia is defined as a male's propensity to be sexually aroused by the thought of himself as a female. It is the paraphilia that is theorized to underlie transvestism and some forms of male-to-female transsexualism. Autogynephilia encompasses sexual arousal with cross-dressing and cross-gender expression that does not involve women's clothing per se. The concept of people feel in love with each other, not color of skin. I ain't gonna lie though, like I'm like just not really attracted. Anyway, the concept of autogynephilia defines the typology of male-to-female transsexualism and offers a theory of motivation for one type of male-to-female transsexualism. Autogynephilia resembles a sexual orientation that it involves elements of idealization and attachment as well as erotic desire. Nearly 3% of men in Western countries may experience autogynephilia. Its most severe manifestation, male-to-female transsexualism, is rare but increasing in prevalence, and that's an important thing to look into. Okay, I'm sorry. So this is important right here. This line right here. Autogynephilia encompasses sexual arousal with cross-dressing and cross-gender expression, but does not involve women's clothing per se. So, yeah. So, again, so I think, like, so it's, like, part of it, but I feel like it goes beyond. And I feel like if he doesn't have the other aspects of actually wanting a female body, then he just has the transvestic fetishism. The concept of autogynephilia, and we'll look into, like the nitty-gritty of, like, the different nuance there, because we'll look at actual transvestic fetishism. The concept of autogynephilia defines a typology of male-to-female transsexualism and offers a theory of motivation for one type of male-to-female transsexualism. Autogynephilia resembles a sexual orientation. See, this is probably where he's getting it, because this is like, again, this is where Anne Lawrence, so this is a woman, it's a woman. Autogynephilia resembles a sexual orientation in that involves elements of idealization and attachment and as well as erotic desire. I think that's really dangerous to say that. I think that's really dangerous. Thank you, Helena. Yes, please do like. Please do like. So JJW is, the whole paper is Lawrence trying to rationalize and justify his AGP. Well, is he an autogynephile? Hold on. Is See, this is why we don't need to hear from these people. Because again, it's like they cannot have an objective view. Is it an autogynephile? Hold on, let's see. Phil also seems like he has fetishized the color blue. Yeah, that's weird. Anne Lawrence and transgender people. Anne Lawrence is a disgraced American anesthesiologist and this is from Transgender Map. I'm on Transgender Map. It's like where they like go through like gender criticals and like trans people. Transgender Map. So Anne Lawrence and transgender people. I'm like listed as like a proponent of like autogynephilia. Like, Anne Lawrence is a disgraced American anesthesiologist and the most prominent autogynephilia activist in history. Lawrence is the author of the 2013 book Men Trapped in Men's Bodies, Narratives of Autogynephilic Transsexuals, and many people, including me, have come forward with the observations and firsthand reports where Lawrence performed inappropriately sexual medical exams following Let's see. Anne Alexandra Lawrence was born November 17, 1950, earned a bachelor's degree in Chicago, medical degree in University of Minnesota in 1974, specialty in anesthesia. My ex-boyfriend is an anesthesiologist, and I can tell you that's like a hardcore specialty. That was like my college boyfriend. And they make bank. Lawrence began taking hormones in medical school. Okay, so it is. So it's he's an autogynephile. But then stopped. Lawrence created. So again, it's the same reason that we don't need to hear from these dudes. Like we can study them without having them like lead the charge. Yeah, let's like just really quick. Hold on. I want to see who else they have on here slightly. I know that they had. Hold on, me. Autogynephilic autogynephilic activists and supporters. Since the creation of the diagnosis autogynephilia in 1989, a few people pushed for the use of its term. Most experts and lay people criticize the diagnosis autogynephilia because it's not scientific, it's not value neutral. No, because it makes you guys look deranged. Academic ideologues. Hold on, let's see. Yeah, it has me listed. Oh, biased people. Social and religious conservatives, Benjamin Boyce, Angus Fox, Matt Walsh. Quote, gender critical people, Alex Aharon, Sasha Ayad, Ali B, Jennifer Bialik, Aaron Brewer, Sarah Didham, Ariel Scarcella, slightly twisted female, Stella O'Malley, Posey Parker, Maria McLaughlin. Wow, this is a fabulous list, not going to lie. Trans exclusionary radical feminists. I didn't make that cut, I guess. It's funny. Okay, anyway. Let's see. All right, so the concept of autogynephilia defines a typology of male to female. Transsexualism offers a theory of motivation for one type. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Some theorists and clinicians reject the transsexual typology and theory of motivation derived from autogynephilia. Their objections suggest a need for additional research. The concept of autogynephilia can assist clinicians in understanding some otherwise puzzling manifestations of non-homosexual male to female transsexualism. Autogynephilia exemplifies an unusual paraphilic category called erotic target identity inversions, in which men desire to impersonate or turn their bodies into facsimiles of the person or things to which they're sexually attracted. It is for this reason that we must take very seriously when we see men who are dressing up as little schoolgirls, right? Let's read this again. Autogynephilia exemplifies an unusual paraphilic category called erotic target identity inversions, in which men desire to impersonate or turn their bodies into the persons or things to which they are sexually attracted. This is why we need to start making judgments based on the clothes that men are wearing, okay? So, like, for example, AGP man in schoolgirl clothes. You know, men in schoolgirl, especially men in baby clothes and things like that. What autogynephiles that make you want to die? Hold on. AGPs that make you wanna die. Let's see. Instagram. So when we see men, here, let's see. Man dressed as baby. Right. Yeah, because why do they keep pretending that? And it's like, these, they just, it's just fashion. It's just fashion. No. Baby. Let's see. Yeah, like this sort of stuff, okay? This sort of stuff. This should be a huge red flag. This is a identity inversion. So it's like men want to dress as the thing that they are sexually attracted to. He is broadcasting what he is attracted to. And it is little girls. This is horrifying. Okay, right here. Here's another one. This was the dude who went to the mall. I literally listen to people who are so-called gender critical even defend this guy. They're like, well, how would you like us to, control what he does? You shun them. You shun them. Every person who owns, we can't we can't force them out of like the actual like public space, but you can, if you have a store, we've got to empower store owners and private businesses to be able to say, no, sir, I'm sorry, you need to get out of here. You shun them, you point and laugh, you tell your children to cross the street, you walk away from him, you go, oh, ew, oh my God, oh, come this way, children, get away from him now. You make every moment that he is walking outside doing this feel like he is on full display. You have men check him and say, hey, buddy, you got to move. You got to keep going. You're not doing that here. Okay? I'm not saying I hate the government, so I don't want to see the government empowered to impose these things. But what I do want to see is citizens empowered to tell them to get out of here. Citizens empowered to say, no, not here. Sorry, nope. Keep it moving. You're not doing that here. Get out of here. Guys, come here. Get away from him. Don't talk to my kids. Get out of here. No, do not talk to me. Do not talk to my child. Guys, get away from him. Cross the street. If he's so isolated and ostracized and we have not only a right to ostracize these people, we have a responsibility. That's how you correct dangerous behavior. Otherwise, it spirals out of control. You got Benjamin Boyce. Like, what's the problem? Bro, come on. Yeah, like, what the fuck?
All I was doing was going to the park, having a good time with my mates. He's on the alley pally, just getting a geezer, eighth in the world, Rob Cross, and he's just like, do you know what, mate? Do me a favour. Bang. I was 16. All I was doing was going to the park, having a good time with my mates.
Yeah, so anyway, exactly. So this is why, again, if people like Benjamin Boyce actually understood, and part of it, it's like, the fact that it's like, if part of them dressing is showing what they're attracted to. And it's like skinwalking women, right? And we know that these paraphilias cluster. They usually just have one. They cluster. And also, whatever these men will do in public, please understand that's just the tip of the iceberg. That there is a lot more below the surface that should really concern everybody. Let's see. Let's just look at a few more of these. So again, this is from Lawrence, which again was an autogynephile. So, but it's just the increasing. This was and this is from A. Lawrence 2007. Perspect Biology Med, Becoming What We Love, Autogynephilic Transsexualism, Conceptualized as an Expression of Romantic Love. Also remember that unlike drug addicts like Ruby, right, these men often are in positions of power and access in academia and beyond. This man is an autogynephilia who is an autogynephile who had is an MD. He's a licensed physician, and he's a researcher. Okay, so a lot of these men who are in these positions of power also have these extreme deviant paraphilias. He was an anesthesiologist, which is one of the most like rigorous subspecialties, right, in medicine. And he's a researcher, and he's, like adding to the intellectual, cachet of ideas and our understanding of things. So please understand, this is very much a top-down phenomenon. These are men who, again, you have to be in a place of a lot of entitlement and power to feel comfortable just imposing your degeneracy onto other people without shame, without restraint. Ann Beamer, it is February in England, and this dude was half naked. Ugh, God. Sweet Sea Monster. They always go straight to the law. Like, you want to throw him in jail for his clothes? No, I want him pointed, laughed at, ridiculed by all of us, see him and not hear, well, he's not hurting you. Exactly. Women at Genspect should have all pointed at him, taken pictures, and been like, what the fuck, and like posted it up. And posted him on like Looney Tunes and clowned him. Right? I agree. I don't want the law involved per se. But I do want us in power. This is why, again, I always point out people like Rex Landy are important, because she lets women know it is okay to point and laugh. And you don't need to be, don't stoop down to their level. Stoop to whatever level you want. They don't deserve that. No level is too low for them. It doesn't even matter. I'm not saying like physically harm anybody, but shame them, you goddamn right. You're so vulnerable. Right. Oh, these poor women. Hey, Ellington. The increasing prevalence of male to female transsexualism in Western countries is largely due to the growing number of male to female transsexuals who have a history of sexual arousal with cross-dressing or cross-gender fantasy. Ray Blanchard proposed that these transsexuals have a paraphilia he called autogynephilia, which is the propensity to be sexually aroused by the thought or image of oneself as a female. Autogynephilia defines the transsexual typology and provides a theory of transsexualism motivation, in that Blanchard proposed that male to female transsexuals are either sexually attracted exclusively to men, homosexual, or attracted primarily to the thought or image of themselves as a female, autogynephilic, which again, I think that they say that only heterosexual or bisexual men can be autogynephiles, but I think that's where they're wrong, right? And that autogynephilic transsexuals seek sex reassignment to actualize their autogynephilic desires. I think that there's actually a lot of, I think I would not be surprised if it turned out that men, like a lot of these homosexual transsexuals, are actually male exclusive bisexuals. They do have an arousal about the thought of being women, and so in the way they are attracted to women, but for themselves, right? That they have a purely inverted, right? I can't imagine that any truly gay man wants to, present himself as a woman and take on the body of a woman, and that makes him feel sexy, right? I think there has to be some sort of bisexuality. So even like Blair White, where again, it's a full inverted. Right, so he talks about in this other one where he talks about the inversion. Hold on, let's see. And I hope you guys I'm explaining this the way that I want to explain it. Hold on. So they talk about. Hold on, let's read the last thing that we read from this. Okay, so look, when he says autogynephilia exemplifies an unusual paraphilic category called erotic target identity inversions, in which men desire to impersonate or turn their bodies into facsimiles of the persons or things in which they are sexually attracted. Now, you have some men who are only attracted to themselves as females. They're like the full autogynephile, right? They don't want sex with anybody else. They really are only interested in this sort of this masturbatory thing, okay? Then I really believe that homosexual transsexuals have to be bisexuals who are, you know, in terms of their external erotic target. So yeah, again, the erotic target identity inversions, where they're sexually attracted to something, but only at themselves as being that thing. That turns them on. No gay man would be sexually attracted to the idea of him being a female. That when he again, because you have to understand, whenever we're attracted to somebody, it's like, you know, there's that idea of like being attracted to us together. Oh, we look good together, and this feels good having us together, and things like that, right? I think a man who is truly homosexual is attracted to the idea of himself as a man being with other men. Now, I do think that some of these men are using it as a dating strategy. And I think that but I just can't imagine that men who, you know, would be so turned off by the idea of a woman being involved in their sexual life would have any interest in even making themselves a woman, right? There's got to be some kind of, you know, I think that there's autogynephilia involved in any man who is impersonating a woman, unless it's like he lives in a place where the only way that he could be openly gay is for one of them to be a woman. Right. Let's see. Yeah, Susie Glucksman says, we don't understand how powerful male sex drive desire is and all the weird manifestations we are seeing today from 24/7 porn, trans porn, et cetera, ad nauseum. Yeah, but it's like, but Blair's not really safer as a woman. I'm starting to move away from this whole idea of like the internalized homophobia and stuff like that, because it's like Blair White, it goes to gay pride, and he surrounds himself with LGB people, and he lives on his own, and there's no reason to think that he feels like, oh, it's his only choice is to present as a woman, or else he's in like harm's way. You know what I mean? Like, no, he's from California. It's 2024. He has like, you know, he grew up having a ton of gay friends. So it's not like he was like, you know, isolated and alone. If you look at the Robbie Fagatron, like, look, here's an example. I just think he wasn't picking up the men that he wanted. Let's see. Let's see, Robbie. Oh God, I don't know if it's still up. I hear you guys, right? And that's what I used to like say too. It's like a lot of the internalized homophobia. And I do think that that's like a part of it, you know, or the internalized like, oh, you know, I feel like this is the only way. But I think that there's more. I think that like it sanitizes gay men's participation too much in the, you know, sexualization and objectification of women and them trying to skinwalk women. And I think that we need to be open to the idea that there is like more complexity there. And that they're not as like, you know, oh, just like they're being victimized and they had no other choice because of how they're. Honestly, it's like we reached a time where there has never been more acceptance for homosexual relationships ever in history, pretty much, or modern history. And then all of a sudden we're seeing the explosion of this trans stuff. It's like, you know, I'm not 100% sure about all of it. Let's see where whatever. I still want to get into Phil Illy. So what I do want to do another Blair White stream. It might have to be on Rumble. Anyway, so autogynephilia defined, and you know, and I'm not saying that like I'm set in stone in all of this stuff, right? Like I'm still trying to figure it out myself, and you know, that's what we're doing right now. And I'm just, you know, I think about this stuff a lot. And it's like the more that I study these people, the more I'm like starting to question some of like the gender critical narratives that we all kind of parrot. You know, we need to be critical of ourselves too. You know, we need to make sure that we're not just repeating these mantras about the root of all of this stuff uncritically, you know, and yeah. So I think it's complex. I think that there are different case. The more I looked at Brianna Ivy, the more I see a lot of AGP, and that's not just because I was like trying to dunk on him because he came for me. Is also like there was almost a moment where like I started to feel a little bit bad, but I was like, and I was kind of like looking at him more through like an objective eye. And I don't hate people. Like it's not like he did anything that serious for me to hate him. I don't know him. I don't care. It's like I just didn't think that he deserved my like sympathy. But like, I had like, I'm not just sitting there looking, I'm like, oh, I despise this guy. I'm just like, how can I like, let's see what's there, sir, And then it's like, I kind of went through and I see a lot of like stuff that I just think fits with what we understand about autogynephilia. Ariana Zona T says it was a way to openly mock the way women look, act, and dress. They even still do it in England as a way to preserve that part of culture. I often think of that when I see men in drag. 100%. It's total woman face. Autogynephilia defines Ray Blanchard proposed that these transsexuals have a paraphilia he called autogynephilia, which is the propensity to be sexually aroused by the thought or image of oneself as female. Autogynephilia defines a transsexual typology and provides a theory of transsexual motivation, in that Blanchard proposed that male to female transsexuals are either sexually attracted exclusively to men, homosexual, or sexually attracted primarily to the thought or image of themselves as female, autogynephilic. And I don't think that Phil Illy is attracted to himself as a female. I think he's attracted to himself as a male in women's clothing. I think that there's a distinction there. And that autogynephilic transsexuals seek sex reassignment to actualize their autogynephilic desires. Despite growing professional acceptance, Blanchard's formulation is rejected by some male to female transsexuals as inconsistent with their experience, of course, because then it's not as like legit, it's like, oh, it's just like a sexual like perversion. Then you can't paint yourselves as this like vulnerable victim class who needs extra special protections and extra special like shield in society. Then it's like, oh, that's your own problem. That's the only way that they're ever going to be able to get it like written into and of course men, it's so amazing how men are able to get together and actually accomplish having things like Medicaid and health insurance to actually cover these things, whereas women can't even get their diastasis recti fixed. It's like we can't, men, what about women who want gender affirming surgery, who want, breast implants, because they're completely flat chested and they've been like mocked and ridiculed. You know what I mean? Or like, again, even like women who need like a breast reduction. It's like, yeah, you can get it covered, but you need to go through all these hoops. So many other things that it's like so impossible. But man, they're efficient at getting their bullshit, covered and legitimized. Blanchard's formulation is rejected by some male to female transsexuals as inconsistent with their experience. This rejection, I argue, results largely from the misconception that autogynephilic is a purely erotic phenomenon. It is. Autogynephilia can be more accurately be conceptualized as a type of sexual orientation. So this is where he's getting it. So none of Phil Illy's ideas are new. And as a variety of romantic love involving both erotic and affectional or attachment-based elements. No, how deranged are you? Romantic love with what? With yourself? It's like the ultimate, like it's like narcissism, fell in love, narcissist who fell in love with his own reflection in the water. Oh, there's a romantic element. Take myself out on, these dates. Come on, bro. And as a variety of romantic love involving both erotic and affectional or attachment-based elements, this broader conception of autogynephilia addresses many of the objections to Blanchard's theory and is consistent with a variety of clinical observations concerning autogynephilic male-to-female transsexualism. And then here, this is important too. All right, so sexuality of male to female transsexuals. This is 2008. This is from Jamie Veal, David Clark, Terry Lomax. This was published in 2008, so around the time when they were, So again, Blanchard's ideas came out in 89, and then Lawrence was doing stuff in like the early, 2000s, and then this is building on that. Blanchard, and this is before they like shut it down, where they're like, no, you can't even discuss autogynephilia as like a potential valid, clinical diagnosis. Blanchard's 1989 theory of autogynephilia suggests that male to female transsexuals can be categorized into different types based on their sexuality. Little previous research has compared the sexuality of male to female transsexuals to biological females. The present study examined 15 aspects of sexuality among non-clinical. Like, why do we need to? It's like, what is the need to just justify and spend all these resources investigating this stuff? Why can't we just be like, this is deviant? We don't need to like, God, I don't know. Like so many women's issues that are just so ignored, yet the plethora, the wealth of information and coddling and enabling of this sort of sexual, we got to understand what gets men hard, must know what gets them off so that we can accommodate them. Like, Christ. The present study examined 15 aspects of sexuality among a non-clinical sample of 234 transsexuals and 127 biological females. I feel like I'm shadow banned. I don't know why all of my... you guys, don't forget to like the stream. It really, really helps if you like the stream. The results showed that overall transsexuals tended to place more importance on partners' physical attractiveness and reported higher scores on Blanchard's core autogynephilia scale than biological females. In addition, transsexuals classified as autogynephilic scored significantly higher on attraction to feminine males, core autogynephilia. And that's another thing that's interesting. Most GAMs, most if not all gyneangiomorphophiles, and those are the men who are attracted to trans-identified males. So, for example, Blair White's boyfriend is a GAMP. He's a gyneangiomorphophile. They actually have traits of autogynephilia themselves. I think either the vast majority or I think like all of them have some level of their own autogynephilia. They just don't, it's not so manifest that they present it. Which is interesting. We'll have to do a whole stream on gyneangiomorphophilia. The present study examined 15 aspects of sexuality among a non-clinical sample of 234 transsexuals and 127 biological females using either an online or paper questionnaire. The results showed that overall transsexuals tended to place more importance on a partner's physical attractiveness and reported higher scores on Blanchard's core autogynephilia scale than biological females. In addition, transsexuals classified as autogynephilic scored significantly higher on attraction to feminine males, core autogynephilia, autogynephilic interpersonal fantasy, fetishism, preference for younger partners, interested in uncommitted sex, importance of partner physical attractiveness, and attracted to transgender fiction than other transsexuals and biological females. So, again, tell me again how this is not just some sort of like sexual fantasy porn-fueled thing. In accordance with Blanchard's theory, autogynephilia measures were positively correlated to sexual attraction to females among transsexuals. In contrast to Blanchard's theory, however, those transsexuals classified as autogynephilic scored higher on average on sexual attraction to males than those classified as non-autogynephilic. And no transsexuals classified as autogynephilic reported asexuality. This is what I'm saying. A lot of these men, the vast majority of these men are bisexual. So these men can partner with other men, and they might want to exclusively partner with other men. This is what I'm telling you. I'm telling you, I really believe that Brianna Ivy is actually a bisexual man. And I really believe that even Blair White has features of bisexuality. Okay? We cannot assume that just because a man predominantly dates men means that he's for sure homosexual, transsexual. They'll all claim that. I've seen clear autogynephiles that'll claim being homosexual, transsexual, and yet they have all of the trappings of a typical autogynephile. Okay? I don't think that you really pay attention to Brianna Ivy. He does not look, please understand, all of the pictures that he posts of himself is not what he looks like. He has professional photographers who have, expert grade experience in Photoshop, who are photoshopping the hell out of him. I've seen candid videos. He is incredibly masculine. His body is masculine. Just because he's got two, like bowling balls shoved under his pectoral muscles and long hair and nails and a face full of makeup does not mean he is feminine looking at all. What you are looking at is an AI generated, image that is based off of what he looks like. But that's not what he looks like, okay? We've got to stop buying into just because, they've been really good at creating the illusion that somehow they're like the safe, they're the true trans, they're the homosexual transsexuals. Just because a man is dating another man does not mean he is truly a homosexual transsexual. Or just because he exclusively dates other men, right? It's a lot easier to get men to play along with this stuff and to find gamps than it is to find women who want to date these men. Let's be real. Yeah, I can cover Nikita Dragon. Okay. All right, so let's go. All right, so it's already 2 hours. All right, hold on. Let's look a little bit. Oh, this Stephanie Winn clown.
It's really bad for people that suffer.
So this woman is like, she's like one of these people. I think she went to the Genspect conference and she's trying to like have this like super like serious like clinical, professional YouTube channel. Her name is Stephanie Winn, some kind of therapist, and she's like so-called gender critical. No, she's not. Platforming this guy as if this is like a serious, intellectually rigorous conversation. She blocked me from commenting because I was like, bro, what is this? Like, as you can see, I like downvoted it. I was like, come on. I'm sorry, but it's like, this is from the same profession of women who ushered this stuff in the first place. No offense, I don't think these are the women who, or the people in general, the professionals in general who we need to be looking for and guidance about how to lead ourselves out. You guys got us here. I'm not interested in you being the shining light to get us out, okay? And it's like, at a certain point, I'm sorry, but anybody who ever bought into this ideology needs to be taken with a serious grain of salt as some sort of like, gender critical, like, even like Exelanzic and stuff, who is really turning out to be a major TRA, and all these other people who used to buy into it. It's like, and at a certain point, and also, let's be so fucking for real, okay? And I get that, like, some people, I'm not saying you have to like dislike Exelanzic, the more that I've paid attention, the more I just really can't co-sign her anymore as a voice in a lot of this. I think that she's really turned her back on women, and I think she's slipping back into like needing to be accepted by the in-group, which is like the Genspect crowd and the true trans thing. And it's the same thing that she did when she claimed that she was trans. She is not a detransitioner, okay? Taking some hormone, taking birth control, taking Depo-Provera because you have period cramps is not medical transition for gender dysphoria. Like, and just to pretend that is, again, it's about wanting to belong, wanting to fit in with the crowd. And we're seeing this now that, again, she used to go against Genspect and she used to be all teamed up with Karen, right? And talk about Genspect was bad, and she used to go against Benjamin Boyce, who Benjamin Boyce tried to have was part of the orchestrated effort to have her channel taken down. But then when she started a fight with Karen Davis, suddenly now she loves Genspect again. Suddenly everybody else is an extremist. I think that there is a deep-seated longing to belong. And I think that we really need to take a critical eye. Anybody who bought into this at any point probably shares that similar deep-seated need to belong and to be seen as like good and compassionate and understanding. And it's a deep virtue signaling thing, right? You've got to be skeptical about any of these people's critical thinking abilities. Same with this Stephanie Winn person, okay? And even real quick, just to here, while I'll play it for a second.
From gender dysphoria or gender confusion or whatever you want to call it, because the therapist doesn't know jack shit a lot of the time. And actually the little they think they know is worse than knowing nothing. Like I said, the doctors don't know. They're prescribing hormones and they don't know why the patients want them. They just know that they do. There's just ignorance all around.
You must be some kind of therapist.
Today I am here with Phil Illy, Phil self-identifies as autogynephilic. He wrote a book on autogynephilia and autoandrophilia called Autoheterosexual, Attracted to Being the Other Sex, which is for sale on Amazon, and I will include in my bookshop. He also has a Substack at phililly.substack.com, where he shares bits of his work from the book and other writings on this topic. And he has a presence on X at autogynephilic.
And so I'm sorry. This is supposed to be some gender critical. Why in the fuck are you sitting here directing people, impressionable people who are looking to you for guidance, to all of his like sources so they can read his book and like treating him as like an esteemed guest? This woman is a TRA. Period. You are trans rights, supporter if you're platforming these people as if they, and helping them sell their books and helping them integrate their voice and their ideas into the broader conversation about safeguarding. And in fact, you're worse than a TRA because you're cloaked in this sort of like gender critical facade, and you're helping inject men like this into the gender critical movement and confusing people. You're worse, Stephanie. You're worse. It's horrific.
Phil has a unique perspective in that he has autogynephilia and has...
Or you just taking his word for it? He has autogynephilia. No, really quick. Hold on. Really quick, let's go through the transvestic fetishism. Sorry, this is fucking... I'm so bad at like just having these streams go on for way too fucking long, but here we go. All right, 2014, fetishtic transvestism in a patient with mental retardation and psychosis. Well, that is a bad John. Fetistic transvestism is a disorder of sexual preference associated with fantasies and sexual urges to dress in opposite gender clothing as a means of arousal, as an adjunct to masturbation and coitus. And this is I'm going to read that again. This is who Phil Illy is. He masturbates like this and he has sex like this. He talks about it, okay? Fetistic transvestism is a disorder of sexual preference associated with fantasies and sexual urges to dress in opposite sex clothing or gender clothing or whatever the hell as a means of arousal and as an adjunct to masturbation and coitus, which is sex. The disorder has been reported in people with learning disabilities. The disorder has been reported in a young male with dull normal intelligence. Transvestism, though has been described in schizophrenia and psychosis, and fetishism has been described in the course of simple schizophrenia. There are no reports of fetistic transvestism in a patient with mental retardation. Though has been described in schizophrenia, there are no reports of fetistic transvestism in a patient with mental retardation and psychosis. A case of fetistic transvestism in a patient with mental retardation and psychosis with treatment and relevant review of literature is reported. Fetistic transvestism is a disorder of sexual preferences, blah, 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 blah. We just read that. All right, let's see. This is not quite. I want more of like a broad. Hold on for a second. I just want to see when it was like first identified. Transvestism, maybe. And the older, the better at this point, because I know that all the new stuff is going to be super captured. Yeah, and that's why no one's home. Ew, imagine letting a man dress in women's clothing, letting him F you. And it's like, this is why they've got to go for other men and just, be bisexual or get with men who dress as women. Because, like, women are not playing these games. At least most of them aren't. Some do. Like Laura Becker. Transvestism as a symptom, a case series, 2016. Transvestism, commonly termed as cross-dressing, means to dress in the clothing of the opposite sex We describe a series of 3 cases with transvestism, as one of their primary complaints. The discussion sheds light on the various ways in which transvestism as a symptom can present in psychiatry. In the first 2 cases, there was lower intelligence. In the first and the third case, there were other paraphilia along with transvestism. Second case had comorbid obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD, and had a good response to selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, SSRI. Introduction. Transvestism, commonly termed as cross-dressing, means to dress in the clothing of the opposite sex. Cross-dressing is seen in varying degrees in paraphilias like dual-role transvestism, fetishism, and transsexualism. Again, we see transvestism it's like you can be an autogynephile, or transsexual or whatever, and have transvestism, but you can also be transvestic separate from, the transsexualism, right? And so that is what I believe Phil Illy is dealing with. I'm back. Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, 5th edition, the DSM-5, of course, which is another thing that we need to really be cautious about because it's very captured, and it's by like WPATH and these people, they update it all the time. They just add what they want. They add eunuch as like a gender identity, so take that with a grain of salt. Specifies if it is with fetishism or autogynephilia. Right, so it's one or the other, and I think he is the fetishist. Sexually aroused by thoughts or images of self as a female. Multiple paraphilias coexist in varying degrees. Paraphilias are also considered part of the OCD spectrum disorders. And I've said that. And I didn't even read this yet. I've said that I believe that OCD, obsessive compulsive thoughts, is a really underappreciated component. Addiction and addiction is virtually obsessive compulsion, right? When you're obsessing and ruminating with something, and then you need to, obsessively, a compulsion to do something, an obsessive compulsion to do something. I've frequently said that I guarantee you OCD is an underappreciated aspect of all of this. And that's what it says here, and I agree, because I rule. Paraphilias are also considered part of the OCD spectrum disorders. Here we describe 3 cases with transvestism. 1 is the primary complaint, in addition to having other comorbidity. Case reports, 17-year-old male, youngest of 4 siblings, staying with parents and 3 elder sisters. Since 3 years old, and people think that, just because he was really young and he had gender dysphoria means that he's a homosexual, transsexual. No. Since 3 years old, he stole sisters since 3 years? Is that what it means, since 3 years old? 17-year-old male, youngest of 4 siblings, staying with parents and 3 elder sisters, was brought by mother for behavioral disturbances and anger outbursts. Since 3 years, he stole sisters' undergarments and used them for masturbation. This was recurrent and persistent despite warning by parents. He started using these clothes out of curiosity, but later got arousal and gratification only on using the inner garments for genital stimulation. He sometimes dressed up in the inner garments during masturbation, but it was not necessary for arousal. Other paraphilic behaviors, like attempts to rub his genitals against his sister while she was asleep, watching females taking baths, exhibitionist behavior were also present. Gender identity was male and had sexual fantasies towards females. Sounds a lot like Phil, although I can see him being like, bye. He was denied fantasizing himself as a female during these episodes, nor desire to become female. To me, this sounds a lot more like what Phil Illy probably is. Anger and aggressive behavior over family members when confronted for such behavior was present. And that's a huge thing. Again, and that's the obsessive compulsive part. That's the addiction part. To go talk to Ruby Spacek and try to take her cigarettes away, right? To go take her cigs and her alcohol and her crack pipe or whatever away. Watch how, violent they get. That's how these other people get sucked into just, they don't want to deal with them, so they just keep feeding them drugs. So it's like, all right, go ahead, just take it and go. And you create this monster. Same thing with them, because, again, it's an obsessive compulsion. There's an addiction aspect. And, again, if we're, what Exelancic was saying, there's, where they're basically psychotic, I feel like that's the closest thing to an actual psychosis, where it's you're just, again, you've created such a reward feedback loop in your, dopamine system your neurological wiring that makes your brain actually believe that this is like critical to survival, right? In the same way that we seek out sex and food and sleep and other things. When it's, again, the stimulation is so high that your brain launches it to the top of the priority list is something that you must seek out. Patient's scholastic performance was poor since childhood and further deteriorated since 7th grade. Since 1 year, there were complaints from school, and the patient misbehaved with girls and tried to touch them inappropriately. I'm trying to understand what they mean, like since 1 year old, or since 3 years in school, like grade 3 or something, since 3rd grade, or I'm so confused. Since 3 years old, but like, what does it mean since 1 year old? Why was he in school? That's maybe like since the 1st grade. Since 1 year, there were complaints from school that patient misbehaved with girls and tried to touch them inappropriately. Again, comorbidities, being inappropriate, lack of boundaries. And to say that we can't make assumptions based on men who are displaying obvious signs of paraphilia. Physical examination was unremarkable. Secondary sexual characteristics were well developed. Intelligence quotient assessment revealed mild mental retardation. Probably not. And again, that's why it's like, everyone's like, oh, wow, like, Phil's so smart just because he's like basically functional. He's not intelligent. I'm sorry. Don't think he's like this like big genius that they're trying to make him out to be. Hold on. Phil Illy images. So this is just so that people know what this guy looks like. Hold on. Phil Illy Genspect. This is the original picture. So again, it is so cringe. So goddamn cringe. The original picture. By Stella. The Split by Stella O'Malley. Oh, she wrote about it. God, she is awful. Immortalizing it. Spotted. Autogynephilic. His handle is at autogynephilic. The guy's a clown. He's anything for attention. Anything for attention. Like, for fuck's sake. Autogynephilic and that funk god artist. Check out I'm sorry, but Laura Becker's made all this artwork about her, like, was a role in this whole thing. Again, just attention starved. Check out Autogynephilic's book, Auto-Heterosexual Attraction to Being the Other Sex. #Genspect Denver. This is the guy on the right with these like crushed velvet. Oh my God. It's so crazy. So this is who we're talking about. So I like take it for granted that like everybody knows, but like maybe we'll have to read that too at some point. There's just so much to discuss. I'm trying to get through it all. Okay. So again, Case 2. 26-year-old younger of two brothers from a nuclear family was brought by mother with complaints of extreme fearfulness and avoidance of all males and dressing up in his mother's clothes while alone at home. He was scholastically poor since childhood and quit studies after 9th grade. Fearfulness for men had developed 5 years ago after a male employer he worked for used to touch the patient inappropriately over his shoulders and back against the patient's wishes, though there was never any sexual contact. Since then, patient got very anxious in the presence of men and constantly feared they might try to rape him or assault him. These thoughts were persistent and intrusive in the presence of any male. Therefore, he stopped talking to all males, including his brother, would never allow any male to come close to him. Repeated hand washing in case of body contact with males was present. Patient had to quit job to avoid any contact with males. Patient repeatedly dressed up in his mother's clothes and jewelry whenever alone at home and would remain so for varying periods. That's so heartbreaking as a mother. Oh my God, that's so sad. I would be so heartbroken. This relieved his distress related to constant fear of males and gave a sense of contentment. He denied sexual arousal or fantasizing being a female while cross-dressing. Again, it's not about being a female, it's just about cross-dressing. Let's see. His gender identity was male and his sexual fantasies limited to females. There are no associated paraphilic behaviors. Patient had extreme anxiety in the presence of male doctor, blah, 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 blah. Patient predominantly had features of OCD, and transvestic behavior appeared as a means to alleviate anxiety rather than for sexual gratification. But how? Maybe so that, like, but how does that, I don't know. 11 years old. That's so sad. 11-year-old elder of 2 boys from rural nuclear family was brought by a school teacher. And so for these guys who are like, oh, I've been feeling this way since a child, does not mean that it's not a paraphilia. Elder of 2 boys from rural nuclear family was brought by a school teacher and mother with complaints of repeated attempts to steal girls' and women's teachers' clothes dried outside in his boarding school. He reported excess interest in women's clothes since about 8 years of age. He would wear his aunt's, cousin's, mother's undergarments and outer garments in privacy and felt pleasure in doing so. By 9 years of age, developed erection and ejaculation while wearing them, hence stole women's clothes and hid them in the trees to wear them in the evening till satisfaction. He thought about wearing women's clothes most part of the day since last 3 years. He likes to keep them till he ejaculates. During cross-dressing, felt like he was a woman having sex with another girl of fantasy, and wished to develop female external genitalia. For these behaviors, patient was placed in a boarding school 6 months back where he jumped across to girls' hostel for their clothes. He denied excess interest in specific body parts or animate objects. The behavior was recurrent and persistent despite warnings. Oh, but let's normalize this, Phil. Stella? Yeah, let's normalize this. There were also attempts to rub against adult female passengers in crowded buses and watch unsuspecting women taking a bath. Subjectively finds them uncontrollable urges and was aware of consequences if caught, but also felt guilty for his actions. There was no history of destruction of property, harm to animals or people, or bullying and stealing. Patient was masculine and well-built, a lot like Phil. Height was 150 centimeters, weighed 44 kilograms, had well-developed secondary sexual characteristics, just like Phil. General physical and systemic examination was normal except for little acne on forehead. Blood pressure was 100. With a diagnosis of paraphilia and precocious puberty, patient was evaluated. USG and computed tomography CT scan were normal. Testosterone levels were higher for age, but cortisol levels were normal. Patient was treated with fluoxetine up to 40 milligrams. Patient had no significant improvement and dropped out after 2 months. In all 3 cases, there was no history of physical or sexual abuse during childhood, or family history of any psychiatric illness, and prominent male figure was father. The prevalence of transvestic disorder is unknown. In males, first signs of transvestic disorder may begin in childhood. 3% of men and 0.4% of women reported at least one episode of transvestic fetishism. Majority of epidemiologic data relating to paraphilia is derived from clinical populations, especially large-scale studies are limited to jail inmates or sexual offenders, and there are no studies in general population. It is difficult to obtain the frequency of paraphilic behaviors in non-clinical populations, as individuals are reluctant to report their sexual fantasies and behaviors. The 10th revision of the International Statistic Classification of Diseases and Related Health Problems, the ICD-10, distinguishes transvestism into fetishtic transvestism, which is associated with sexual arousal, and dual-role transvestism, where there is no sexual motive for cross-dressing. In one of our cases, case 2, transvestic behavior was associated with sexual arousal, or not with sexual arousal, but rather to allay anxiety of obsessive thoughts. Hence, this could be an example of a dual-role transvestism, secondary OCD. However, so far there is no distinction from primary and secondary transvestism in literature. Recent studies suggest that paraphilics cross over from one paraphilic behavior to another, and multiple paraphilias coexist, as noted in our patients. The 3rd patient also had gynephilia, as noticed in DSM-5. So I feel like you can have, fetishic transvestism as a AGP, but you don't have to be AGP as an transvestic fetishist. There are no studies to show direct correlation between intelligence and paraphilia. Sexually deviant behavior has been associated with higher or lower intelligence. Here, case 1 and 2 had onset at later age and had a lower IQ. Lower intelligence may be the cause of delayed onset of symptoms in adolescence and early adulthood. In case 3, although the onset was in childhood, it was in precocious adolescent. It is possible that persons with low intelligence may have poor impulse control and cannot alter gratification. Paraphilias are also considered as part of an OCD spectrum disorders. Thank you. Bro, I called it. I called it. In case 2, there appears to be no apparent link between the theme of obsessive thoughts and transvestic compulsive acts. There are no guidelines for the treatment of sexual paraphilias. Yeah, we can learn about all of it, yet we haven't been able to figure out any actual guidelines to deal with it. There is some support for the use of serotonergic drugs, escitalopram, sertraline, and also lithium have been used. 2 of our patients were started on fluoxetine. Of these, the patient with comorbid OCD had significant clinical improvement in both compulsions and paraphilia. Another case in which mood stabilizers were given due to associated aggressive behavior had significant improvement in both symptoms. Hence, selective cases of paraphilia, this group of drugs may be effective, especially when associated with other comorbidity. A patient presenting to psychiatrists with transvestism could be suffering from different disorders. Careful evaluation with special reference to other paraphilias and comorbid disorders is necessary. SSRIs are the most commonly used pharmacotherapy. Treatment is likely to be effective when transvestism is associated with other comorbidities. Okie dokie. Let's see. All right. Why did I just feel like I just saw stuck? Jorgensen. Okay. All right. I gotta go to the bathroom. I'm gonna play this.
Devoted a significant amount of time to understanding the condition and speaking openly with others.
Look at his little smile. Look, he always gets this little smug look whenever they're whenever people legitimize him, he kind of gets this smug little smile. It's it's almost like a duper's delight. I can't believe these idiots are taking me this serious. I can't believe I've made it this far. He gets a little duper's delight look.
Critical people such as myself on this topic, which is very taboo to discuss in the trans-identified community, but he shared with me that Phil is here because he recognizes that there can be a lot of suffering around this condition and is here to help alleviate that suffering. So, Phil, thank you for joining me. I'm looking forward to our conversation today.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Stephanie.
All right, so we've used a lot of big words so far. I think a lot of people in my audience are familiar with these, but that is kind of a little niche of those of us who have even heard of these phrases before. So for the general public who have no idea what we're talking about, what is autogynephilia? And feel free to define autoandrophilia and autoheterosexual as well.
So autogynephilia is composed of Greek roots meaning self, woman, and love, and it means love of self as woman. It's a sexual attraction to being a woman or a sexual attraction to being female, to embodying femininity, that sort of thing. And autoandrophilia is the counterpart that occurs in some females, and which they're sexually attracted to being a man and being masculine. And with both these orientations, since they're sexual orientations, they have the capacity for attachment. And so over time, people tend to get attached to being the other gender. And this alters their identity over time and is a large motivator of gender transition. And I use the term autoheterosexual as an umbrella term to include male autogynephilia and female autoandrophilia under a shared heading that treats them as equals with a simpler term that's easier to say and understand.
And Ray Blanchard originally coined the term autogynephilia as one of 2 subtypes of male cross-sex identity, the other being the homosexual, transsexual. Now, you described this as a sexual orientation. Some people describe it as a fetish. Do you disagree with that?
Well, I find that using the word fetish or kink, it really fails to capture the depth of the firsthand experience. It really deeply alters how you perceive gender and your place in the world of gender, and it strongly alters your identity over time. And if you just think of it as a simple matter of sexual arousal, you're going to miss like the actually impactful part of the orientation, kind of like with heterosexuality, even though like it often leads to like marriage and kids, it's not a simple matter of arousal. It has a much deeper impact on how someone feels about themselves and how they live their lives.
And perhaps too, we can talk about the impact on how a person feels toward others. So what's different about what you call auto-heterosexuality is that it's a relationship.
So him pretending like there's some like deeper, like, complex thing. Just because you allow your sexual interest to dominate your life, we believe you, sir. We sure do believe that it's like the center of your world. Doesn't mean that it's like some like, richer like experience that should just be allowed to proliferate. It's so much suffering. We just want to be who we are.
With yourself, that you are comparing with types of relationships that are with others. You say that as a sexual orientation, there's a capacity for attachment. But if I'm understanding you correctly,
also,
please feel free to correct me. But
he's like a con artist and a creep, and we know that. My real issue is with her. What is she doing? What are you doing giving this guy like a legitimate platform and like taking him at his word? Like, oh, okay, well, that's very interesting, Philip. It was real. Let's hear more about Phil and your complex experience. I don't like all you stupid therapists. Like, have you guys like shut up at a certain point? Do less talking. And you're like trying to have him on and go. And it's like, where are the women? Bring in some like people actually analyze this thing. And you're too spineless to actually like confront him in any meaningful way. Some other people are like, oh no, she did push back on him. I'm sure it was some like noodly, like, well, I'm not sure about that. Yeah, how dare you? And then people are like, oh wow, he knows a lot about what he said. You cannot underestimate how dumb and gullible certain people are, and how god-awful people's critical thinking skills. And so you need to have a little bit more, integrity and boundaries over who you just platform and allow to just spew out information. And like some people are really dumb and they think, well, Stephanie Winn is a professional and she must know, and she's having this esteemed guest on, and he's telling us. Of course, he has a sexual motivation. He has a personal vested interest in shaping this narrative to make it seem like this legitimate thing. How dare you enable this, Stephanie? Why don't you unblock me, bro? And so what? Again, Stephanie, you want to debate? I got you, sis.
Saying that it's an attachment to a part of yourself. So, what is the relationship between having this auto-heterosexual sense of yourself and your capacity or desire to connect in a sexual romantic way with other people?
It can interfere with it depending on how strong it is. Basically, with sexual orientation, the most common dimension is gender, whether someone is attracted to men or women, respectively. But there's also other dimensions to sexual orientation, such as age and location. And with these autosexual orientations, it's basically a difference in that dimension of location and basically how much of your orientation is biased outward toward versus inward. And so it can interfere with.
To me, this sounds like one of these guys who like is trying to convince everybody that he's like clairvoyant, like I have ESP. Like, who's like one of these like scammers, these like con artists, clairvoyant, whatever, and like he's speaking with all this like authority and everybody's like, oh wow. And it's like, oh, come on. I'm being so dumb. Psychological tools, to trick people. Come on. Like, it's just, God. This is just like what it reminds me of.
the
He's just like
conventional.
trying to sound real authoritative and just making stuff up. And there's no way to verify it one way or another because it's all fantasy. You know, it's not like quantitatively, measurable. So she's like, oh yes, wonderful, wonderful. So thank you, Philip, for that insight.
Externally directed pair bonding process if it's particularly strong. But I think most of the people with this orientation still find meaningful relationships outside of themselves, and it just alters what sort of relationships they look for or how they conduct themselves while in those relationships.
Is that a general sense that you've gotten from talking to other people, or is there any data to suggest that the majority of people who feel this way are in romantic relationships?
I don't think there's any solid data on it. It's already not. Most of the data on it comes from studies where they'll ask people a variety of single item questions about their sexuality, and one of them will be, whether they've been aroused by fantasizing about being the other gender, or whether they've been aroused by cross-dressing, things like that. So it's hard to know whether the people that have this sexual interest, the proportion of them that are in relationships, because I don't think that's been studied yet, but that's just my general sense of interacting with them over the past few years.
It has been studied. I forget what the answer is though.
Hearing their stories.
I know, I miss Chris Farley. Yeah, men are always and it's like he's so masculine. He's not an autogynephile. I really believe that.
Most of them do have romantic relationships.
And do you mind talking about yourself? Feel free not.
I'm sorry, this woman is such a noodle. Oh, interesting. Thank you very much, Philip. So would you tell us some more about what we should do in terms of safeguarding? Can you please lead the way? Come on.
Not to, if anything is too personal, but for you yourself, are you driven to connect and relate with other people? Do you have a partner?
Yeah, I do.
What is he doing?
And I am driven to do that. I don't think it's the same intensity of push that most men experience, where I can just tell that the intensity of the drive to find women is not as powerful, but it nonetheless still happens sometimes. And I've been in quite a few relationships over the years. So yeah, overall, I feel like I'm doing.
Word on the street is he usually gets these women who are addicted to drugs, who have very low self-esteem, who don't have strong family, and just it becomes dominates their whole world. And they get this very codependent thing, and he's allegedly has very abusive and controlling and behaviors, and there's a lot of drug use. There's a lot more below the surface, which is why I'm sorry, but people like Exelanzic is an idiot for co-signing him. Benjamin Boyce, and I was like, how poor are your critical thinking skills? Seriously.
Pretty normal in that respect.
Would you mind sharing how your female partners have related to your relationship with your own sexuality? Has that been a challenge for them, or?
I didn't even know I had this until 4 years ago. And it blew my mind that I had this sexuality that I had never heard of. And so I got really obsessed with learning about it, and that kind of got out of hand and led to me writing a book about it.
Obsessive compulsive.
700-page book, I noticed.
Obsessive compulsion. There probably is some OCD in there.
Yeah, it's
an addiction,
it's complicated.
He's a drug addict, so he's a meth addict. And again, we know that. Oh, why is it disconnected? Hold on. Oh, why is it disconnected? Oh no, it's not disconnected. Why are you guys? Why are you guys disconnected? Why?
It's not disconnected. Why are you guys?
Oops. Oh, there you guys are. Okay. Are we back? Are we back? This is what I was saying, like, even like, yeah, like Exelanzic and all them who are like, it's very cowardly. Very cowardly. Yeah, I know that they're like so intellectual and like we just don't understand how smart and big brain they are. I'm like, no. The desperate need to over intellectualize everything. It's literally as simple as these dudes just being, perverts. I wonder if she's like reporting it or something.
Comprehensive. It explains all.
But again, it makes sense. He just said I got real obsessed with it. Let's rewind that. He just said after he learned about it, he got real obsessed with it. Come on. Am I frozen again? All right. He just says once he learned about autogynephilia, he got real obsessed with it. And again, couple with, I've said this a million times, I believe that there's a huge addiction component and obsessive compulsive component. I know, honey, you want your bed? And he seems like he has both of those components.
Oh, yeah, overall, I feel like I'm doing pretty normal in that respect.
Would you mind sharing how your female partners have related to your relationship with your own sexuality? Has that been a challenge for them, or?
I didn't even know I had this until like 4 years ago. And it blew my mind that I had this sexuality that I had never heard of. And so I got really obsessed with learning about it. And that kind of got out of hand and led to me writing a book about it.
A 700-page book, I noticed.
Yeah, it's comprehensive. It explains all of trans identity, like even beyond gender, it explains trans race and all that stuff too.
It's comprehensive.
So I've only had like one partner in the basically since learning that about myself. So I don't know the overall pattern yet.
So I'm curious, do you think that this is something fixed or fluid or maybe somewhere in between? I noticed the way you describe it, it sounds like a process of self-discovery in a way that
to me it is just so aggravating to hear her like legitimize this guy, and he's just saying anything. We don't need to hear from him. So let's see, hold on. So I want to go through like even the Exelanzic thing. Yeah, they're like death. Again, it's important to read. This was the post that she hopped in with. They made me take down all my banners because they said it was pornographic. I got to deal with that. So annoying. Let's see. Hold on, little Logie. Let me see. Whoops. How many times did I post this? Whoops. Hold on. Damn it. Hold on. Let me here. All right, I'm going to start playing. I don't know if like maybe she blocked me. Maybe she's listening. But I'll take screenshots real quick. And again, like justifying this. And again, it was so much of it was just to jump into the into the controversy. It's just an attention grab. And this is just frustrating because it's like you got to realize that not everyone's purposes are.
Hi, I'm here today with Pamela Garfield-Yeager, and we met this weekend.
It's a shame because I actually think that Pamela is not terrible. The one on the left, the one on the right's a clown, I think. The one with the black hair I think actually has a lot of potential to be a good voice. But then she gets into coddling this stuff, which I think it's I don't know why. Maybe it's it's part of the empathy trap of her being a therapist and the way she was trained and whatever. But here they justify him.
At the Genspect conference in Denver, and I had a really great time talking with you, and have been looking forward to having a chance to connect further with you, and we were having a discussion about something specific, so it seemed like
it's called Post-Gender Conference AGP Purity Spile with Pamela Garford Yeager, and it's by the Radical Center. There is no center. There is no center. Okay, it is. Even if you find like this somehow mid ground between like reality and whatever they're pushing, that's still way out in the reeds. That's not a centrist position. There is no middle ground on this. There is no compromise with a fantasy, with a lie, with a delusion. That's why I tried a purity spiral. Shame on both of you.
Like a good time to maybe just hop on and do at least a brief chat about the topic at hand. But first, before we get going, would you mind just giving your background, just introduce yourself to people who may not be familiar with you?
Sure. So I'm a licensed clinical social worker in California. I've been licensed here since...
Oh, they definitely were reporting my banners. That's why this all happened. I've had my banners up for years. And then all of a sudden I get in a fight with like Buck Angel and like Brianna. And they all come down.
2005. I have lots of experience, mostly working with teens and families in school settings and in group home, a secret LGBT group. And I screen the kids to go to this secret group, and I feel horribly ashamed for it.
So here we go. They're calling us purity spiraling, yet they all used to be basically involved in indoctrination of children. Maybe sis, maybe Pamela, again, you've done a few good things, I'm not going to lie, but to the both of you, maybe consider that if you were so one thing I'll tell you I never did, I never groomed no children into, transgenderism. I never pushed gender ideology. I never, was a huge ally. I kind of tolerated it until I started looking more deep. I always thought it was kind of gross and weird, and I was like, eh. And I usually kind of listen to my, internal instincts on stuff that I think are weird and stay away from it. And I didn't know enough people, so it didn't really impact my world. I was never involved LGBTQ groups and stuff. But one thing I never fucking did, I never promoted this stuff. I never pushed it onto children. I never created trans groups. So you did that. That was a you thing. That was a y'all. Okay? So on a professional level too. You should have known better. So maybe how about instead of just coming out of the gate and telling women that they're wrong and this is a purity spiral and I wish it, and they were complaining. They were oh, there was so much good stuff because some of them were on the panels and it was all overshadowed by Phil Illy and no one cared about any of their dumb speeches. And, their self-important academic speeches. And they were no, no one's paying attention or reporting on this important work that we did at Genspect. Everyone's just talking about Angie Pinkett and Phil. It's not fair. It's maybe we don't need to hear from you. Maybe nobody needs to hear from any of you. You're all self-important, and you used to sit there and peddle this shit. So why the fuck would we look to you now as being the ones to lead us out of it? And before you just shoot from the hip and tell women that they're purity spiraling and that they're extremists, maybe consider, just maybe have the humility to even consider the fact that your critical thinking skills have sucked asshole in the past, and maybe they continue to suck ass. Maybe it's the only time that you can actually step up and have a spine against something is when people around you give you permission to do so. No one gave me permission to be, a hardcore anti-true trans. I just see it for what it is. No one gave Karen Davis permission to go against Genspect when the whole gender critical community was embracing them. She just saw it for what it is, and she didn't need to sit here and make all these professional inroadings and it's a networking event. And so, because I'm a therapist and the therapy's a real legitimate, field, and we totally haven't disgraced ourselves because of this gender therapy shit and affirmation only model that we created that has destroyed the lives of so many children and adults. No, listen to us now and pay $500 to hear us talk on a panel. But how about no? Literally, how about no?
The field.
Yeah, I think what happened was the change was so drastic, but then once I kind of woke up to it, then in hindsight, look back at some other things and realize, that the seeds were planted long before those 4 years. So I'm actually in this Epic Times movie called Gender Transformation, and I'm there admitting the fact that I was part of this secret LGBT group, and I screened the kids to go to this secret group, and I feel horribly ashamed for it.
Shame on you.
But I'm talking
Shame
out
on you.
about it now because
great. That's wonderful. So maybe do less talking for a while. Do less talking, more listening. Do more listening to the women who never fell for this shit. Do more listening to the women who always saw this as like the weird shit that it was. Do more listening to the women who, as soon as they tapped in and started paying attention, were able to accurately describe and recognize the damage and the wrong stuff that was going on. Maybe do some more listening to them before you guys come out with some joint podcast called Post-Gender Conference AGP Purity Spiral. Before you start writing us off as some kind of purity spiral. Fuck out of here. Sorry, Pamela. I honestly, I think that you, like, of all of these like true trans clowns, are actually like somewhat respectable, and I think that like you might be saved because I've seen you do some good work. But I think that you trying to play the fence is where you're gonna lose all your credibility, and you're not gonna be able to redeem yourself. I'll tell you what. This trying to take this true trans fencing like bullshit half-ass 1 foot in 1 foot out position is not going to be your path to redemption. I promise you. Start doing some more listening before you, again, it's like this sort of self-importance of just like, oh, well, now we know. And it took other I'll bet you anything, it took other gender critical speaking up for you guys to like snap out of what you guys were, indoctrinated into before. Didn't it?
Now I know it's wrong. I thought at the time, we were just helping kids figure themselves out without adult interference. Of course, now I see it very differently, that it was a way to kind of groom kids. Of course, at the time, this was in 2016, trans really wasn't so big. There's one trans kid in the whole high school, and she wasn't even in that group. So it wasn't about that at the time. But of course, I see it as the seeds were planted for what they're doing now. And in fact, I just talked to a reporter about this school and the program, because now they're hosting some Zoom program for 13 to 25-year-olds for kids to attend without their parental knowledge.
And who helped create that, Pamela? Who helped set that up? Wasn't me. Wasn't Karen Davis. Wasn't any of these women on these so-called purity spirals. That was you. That was you.
So, it just went from one place which was not good to another place which is really bad. So that's what I've noticed.
No. You had why are you trying to downplay? Yours was really bad too. It was a secret LGBT group that you helped get kids into. A secret. Where they could, covert go and explore this stuff that probably ruin their lives. It's literally, exactly, Rad Mom. It's literally the definition of grooming. Max, honey, you can't, I know. You want attention, honey, but
what a spread of age to not have your 13, not know that your 13-year-old is in a group with 25-year-olds.
Yeah, it's creepy. And that's what the Trevor Project is doing too. If people aren't aware, if you go on that website, there's...
All right, let's hear you scold us for the purity spiral.
After they go ahead and do it, even if it results in job loss, right after the second day of the conference. And I had been planning on doing a live stream with the...
Yeah, real quick. I don't know what happened with this. Okay, hold on. Oh, must have. Let's see. Hold on for 1 second, guys. Hold on. Oh yeah, she knows. Oh, Xlansic blocked me, so she must be listening. Well, it's all right, sis, because I got the screenshots anyway, and I think it's important to discuss. You decided, you chose your side. That's not my problem. And your whole, like tirade that you're going on about other women is real gross. So I don't care. You can deal with the consequences of your pure decision making. Hold on for 1 second. Luckily, I got the screenshots. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Are we you? Are we you? Hold on, we'll just play this nonsense.
Jessie Manisto. We've talked before. I interviewed her on this channel.
Boring.
She's a friend, and I was really excited.
It's like sometimes I try to listen to these people so I can like stay up, but it is so boring. Hold on. Come on. Oh, come on. Sorry, guys. It's freaking freezing up on me. Up freezing.
Good to see her in person at the conference. We talked about connecting and doing either a live stream or a recording at the conference, and she had to leave early the next day, so our only chance was that afternoon. And we ended up having some technical issue, and so we tried to do it from my phone, and it was a total experiment, but we thought we'll just give it a try. And so we recorded a live stream. It wasn't working out. We just tried to handle it really graciously. We couldn't really see ourselves, and it was Jessie and myself and Julia Malott. Julia Malott is a Canadian trans woman and also a friend of mine, also someone I met through this process. And I let this thing just stay up for a little while. I ended up taking it down because it was just sloppy. But in the meantime, I got several really negative comments, and I wasn't sure what it was about. At first, I thought I was being criticized for a sloppy live stream, which would have been fine. That made sense. And then when I inquired and I got my response, it was because I was sitting with a trans woman.
Yeah,
that was the response.
Trans woman. Because I was sitting with a trans woman. Are you going to tell us how transphobic they were being? Wow, I couldn't believe they would say such a thing. Yeah, you guys, this is W Path Light, and these are going to be the apostles. Mark my words.
And it was like, you're basically you're a sellout, and and your position means nothing.
That person is based. Who was it? Can you drop the handle so we can like add them to the community, because they sound real based.
Sitting with a trans woman. And I thought that was really interesting, because I personally, this is just on a personal note, but I've never presented myself as having an extreme position on that.
How dare you? I've never presented myself as having an extreme position. How dare you call it an extreme position? That men cannot become women, and that appropriating our bodies, our languages is an absolute disgrace that should not be, fostered. How dare you? An extreme position. No. The idea that men can become women is the extreme position. That literally was not even a thing until about 5 minutes ago.
I guess I have a very firm position on that when it comes to children. But when it comes to adults, there's a lot of room for people to be that.
How can you sit there and say that you're firm about it when it comes to children, but not adults, when it's the adults that are grooming the children? When it's the adults that's the pipeline for children. What are you talking about? So long as we legitimize this in society, then it will always be interesting for children to pursue. So long as we have trans influencers and trans, YouTubers and trans Instagrammers, Buck Angels and Blair Whites, children are going to want to do this too. Not just children, but young adults. More people are going to get hurt. Shame on you. None of this is an extreme position. You're the extreme. You're the lunatic. You're the lunatic with the loony bin ideas. Shame on you.
Themselves, and me to still accept them as a friend or a client or a colleague or whatever. I'm not. So I was really surprised by that presumption in the
pearl clutching
by people who have been following the channel for a long time and have been really supportive.
Good. I'm glad
now that I've been in this space a while, that doesn't surprise me at all. Actually, it would have surprised
Pamela. Poor Pamela, who started the grooming group for children, who probably went on. Why don't you go ahead and get a list of all the kids who went on to self-harm, Pamela, under your guidance? The esteemed Pamela, the esteemed masters and social worker, these parents who trusted you, who looked to you for guidance.
And now you're just so shocked. Oh, God, you're just so... It's ridiculous, really. Ridiculous. Oh, come on.
Maybe a year or two ago.
Oh.
And my position, just to share, has actually shifted. So I guess I've become more, I'm not anti the people who are trans, but I am anti the process. I just don't think it's a good choice for people. So if I meet a trans person, I'm not against that person because I see them as a human being. But I am privately believing that they're not making
and
the
when
best
you
choice for
say
themselves.
comments like that, you're implying that people who stand against gender ideology with a firm line don't see these people as human beings. Nazis were human beings, sis. You know, serial killers were human beings. Pedophiles are human beings. Okay? We can call stuff for what it is. Just because someone's a human being doesn't mean we need to like coddle them and act like it's okay and co-sign them. And by saying those little comments like that, the implication is that we're so extreme that we don't even see them as humans and we're dehumanizing them and we're bigots and we're hateful. It's all the same TRA talking points. It's all the same shaming women for speaking out. It's the same old shit that we've been dealing with since forever. Blah, blah.
And I'm also wondering what health issues that they're dealing with as a result, either currently or will be in the future, because I just think it's not a good choice. And then I do see there are some ramifications to society, which is complex. But at the same time,
but I'm
I
too
don't
spineless
have
to actually. I don't have that vitriol. How fucking dare you? How fucking dare you? Because women are justifiably hurt and angry, and that's vitriol, that's bigotry, it's dehumanizing. Ah, God, go fuck yourself. Sorry, but go fuck yourself. How dare the gaslighting? But this, let's be real. This movement would have never, this gender ideology shit would have never gotten this far and imposed on people, and so much damage would have been done if it were not for women like you leading the way. If it were not like women like you opening the doors and waltzing everybody right on in. You've transgressed our boundaries for us. We are allowed to be mad. We are allowed to be upset. We're allowed to be hurt and express that. They did it to us, not the other way around.
That I know a lot of people have, especially women, especially women towards the men who are trans. But either way. So, yeah, I mean, I've actually shifted because I used to be much more moderate on it. And I guess the more I learned about how bad it was for people psychologically and physically, I've moved on that. But I don't believe in shaming anybody. I got a lot of hate because
I don't believe in shaming anybody. Oh, you don't? So you don't believe in shaming pedophiles? You don't believe in shaming, people who mutilate animals? You don't believe in people who feed drugs to kids? You don't believe in parents who are passed out on fentanyl while their kids are scrounging around for scraps? Oh, we shouldn't shame anybody. Shame is honestly, if you were a therapist worth your bill, you would understand that shame is an important social tool to help correct behavior that harms everybody, including the person, engaging in it. I didn't believe in shame. That's a luxury belief. That means that you're so safe and inoculated from the fallout of this. It means you don't have a daughter. It means you aren't an athlete. It means you aren't a vulnerable person who's imposed by this. It means that you're not some kind of nurse who has to serve women. It means that you're not in a position to be harmed by this. It's a luxury belief. Oh, people shouldn't be shamed. I just think that's wrong. I groomed children for a living at one point, and then I realized that was wrong. But now I don't agree with just the vitriol. No. Do more listening than speaking for fucking once in your lives, both of you.
I actually was on Buck Angel's YouTube channel, and oh my God, I got so much hate.
As you should, you deserve it.
I know that Buck is controversial because it has that porn connection, and that's a whole other can of worms.
And because she
but
grooms
it was even just the trans
children,
piece,
there's so much more to it. God, I'm going to do a Buck Angel one on. What is it? Only doing it one at a time. Oh, it's so aggravating. God, it's so aggravating. I can't take it. Oh, it's annoying that I can't pull up. Excellent. Again, it's like these like these like intellectual spirals where it's like you just again because she finally felt like part of the in-group finally. No offense, it's like the dorky girl finally got like invited to like the cool kid party and wants so bad to like for them to keep liking her and keep inviting her. Oh, I'm so excited, especially because these are people who used to reject me. Now I just want so bad to be liked. My thoughts on AGP Gate. The bigger red flags in man in a dress for me were the style of dress, the fit. The inferences and judgments I drew from that were extensive. Despite what, oh God, I don't even care about the word salad. It's like the inferences and judgments. I can't with all of these people. And now she's going after Jennifer Thomas for like accurately stating the problem, which is misogynistic men. Again, so when the whole Laura Becker photo was, no, this is like where I see that like Exelanzic is just kind of a clown. It's like when the whole Laura Becker photo was trending, she saw that as the opportunity to like jump in and be like, I have my own picture too. Pay attention to me too. Anything to like, get more attention. Stir up trouble, and that's exactly what this other guy like. It's like Genspect is like just the reject convention of like dorks that like. I'm sorry. Hold on, I gotta put my dog away. Like why we're spending so much time trying to legitimize this guy, and like he's not going to be a thing. Phil Illy is never going to be a thing. It's never going to be a thing. And trust me, I really liked Exelanzic at one point too, but I don't think...
What happens if we lose that dynamic?
The problem is she's
dynamic?
a very dishonest person. She misled everybody about being a pathologist, which is an MD. Turns out she's really a speech pathologist. She says she's a lesbian, but has had adult relationships with AGP men. Says she's a detransitioner. No, you're not. No, you're getting a haircut and trying to fit in. And taking
Hello and welcome to Conversations with the Voice of Reason. I'm your host, Benjamin Boyce.
Taking some, it's just like, come on, guys. It's just, I wish people would just get real. Get honest. All right, anyway, let's look at some of this.
And today's conversant is returning
so
guest
these women are all protecting him, pretty much. And so is, of course, Ben.
Phil Illy. People are still commenting on the first one.
Yeah, hopefully nicer than the first day, but...
What are you going to do?
Yeah. No, it's YouTube, but yeah, what are you going to
do? It's YouTube, and it's Pride Month, so people are all going to be, like, totally on fire for...
Again, it's like, we don't even know what the extent of this so-called relationship was with the AGP, but she, like, apparently had some sort of, like, romantic sexual relationship with a male autogynephile. She's like, oh, and he really did look like a woman. And again, and it's like, and you're saying that you're still like a lesbian and stuff. And it's like, no, because lesbians don't do dick. It's okay to be bisexual, guys. It really is okay to be bisexual. This like desperate need to somehow, claim yourself as a lesbian. I'm sorry, if you're an adult and you're having sex with men and relationships with men, lesbians don't do that. And we're supposed to be pushing back against the idea that some lesbians will get with AGPs as long as they're like pretty enough. That is such a toxic message. And she's saying, no, I am a lesbian. No, you're not. You're a bisexual woman and it's okay. I understand that being a lesbian has some sort, it's like you need to do whatever that will add weight to your voice. So being a lesbian, we all know that the rad femmes love, the idea of lesbians have like the highest level of clout. So then you had to be a lesbian. Then, detransitioners it was all being listened to. Well, now I'm a detransitioner. Now I'm a Native American, even though there's no proof of that. Now at first she was saying she didn't have autism. Now she does have autism, which I think obviously, but it's like, again, it's like, just stop with the just to the point where I can't trust anything now. It's just the pretendianness. But here we go with this. I don't want to go too far into it. I don't care.
Just do this. Just like
Thank you for doing your part to support Pride by having me on.
Yeah. Okay, totally. What are we proud of today,
I
Phil?
just feel like anybody who's supporting any of this shit should just like, and this is what Jennifer Thomas said, and I agree. It's like they just really, in anybody who has like any sort of critical thinking skills, these people should have no credibility anymore. They should have no credibility, okay? They're not, I don't know what their purpose is for being involved in this. Maybe it's about being like, becoming like internet important or whatever. But the goals are not the same. At least they're not the same as mine. And I don't think this is the same as a lot of people, in this channel. Yeah, it's totally giving Gamp with boys.
We're proud of the sexual orientation that most commonly leads to transgenderism.
Okay.
Watch Boyce. Boyce gets all like giddy and like excited whenever he talks to Phil, and like Phil like sweeps him off his feet like that. I feel like Boyce gets so like such like a boyhood like butterflies in his stomach whenever like Phil's on.
It's an orientation, not a paraphilia or a fetish. So this is another thing that came up in the comments, the last one. Like, I don't really know the difference between those things, other than people just use it with different like moral weight to it.
Right. That's the thing is sexologists, they differentiate based on paraphilias and sexual orientations just for like theoretical ideological reasons of like where do these things come from. But in terms of how they play out in a person's life, there's a lot of similarity between what we call paraphilias and sexual orientations, in that it's an enduring sexual preference for a particular class of stimuli.
All right, let's actually let's like just fact check everything that this clown says. Because I don't think that that's true. I don't think it has to be enduring. I mean, it's enduring to a certain extent, sure. But I don't think it's the same level where it's like immutable, like a sexual orientation. And trying to conflate the two. Sex is our bodies are sexed bodies. We are a sexually dimorphic species, meaning there are two sexes, male or female. You're attracted to either one or the other or both. That's it, period. That's what a sexuality is. It has to do with your sexual relation, you having a sexual interest in inanimate objects, that's a paraphilia. That has nothing to do with sex or our need for sexual reproduction or sexual companionship, and homosexuality, has its own evolutionary roles. No, these are paraphilias. Let's stop trying to like normalize this shit. Again, a paraphilia, a condition characterized by abnormal sexual desires, typically involving extreme or dangerous activities. Let's see. All right, real quick. So Sierra jumps from group to group, no sense of self, extremely emotionally immature, and very, I hate to say it, but it's giving me like 9th grader who's like trying so hard to fit in with like all the friends. And it's like, get some just real life friends, and then you don't have to be such a noodle. You can actually like stand for something, and it might be better. Continuing education activity. Let's see. Paraphilias are persistent and recurrent sexual interests, urges, fantasies, or behaviors of marked intensity involving objects, activities, or even situations that are atypical in nature. Boom. Your fetish, your transvestism is a fetish. I see no evidence of you being an actual autogynephile. I really believe you only say that for the shock factor because you're that big of a scumbag. This activity outlines the evaluation and management of paraphilia and paraphilic disorders. It explains the role of interprofessional healthcare team in managing and improving care for patients with a condition. Let's see. So the objectives are to identify the etiology of paraphilia and paraphilic disorders, outline the evaluation of paraphilia and paraphilic disorders, review. All right, so those two are what I'm interested in. Let's just read this really quick. Introduction. Paraphilias are persistent and recurrent sexual interests, urges, fantasies, or behaviors of marked intensity involving objects, activities, or even situations that are atypical in nature. So it could be like role playing. It could be like, foot fetish or whatever. I don't know. Yeah. Although not innately pathological, a paraphilic disorder can evolve if paraphilia invokes harm, distress, or functional impairment on the lives of the affected individual or others. A total of 8 paraphilias are listed in the DSM-5 and include pedophilia, exhibitionism, voyeurism, sexual sadism, sexual masochism, fraudurism, fetishism, and transvestic fetishism. What is this?
Never heard of this word. Hold on. I'm scared. Should I like be careful? Oh, it is. Oh, ew. Frauderism is the act of touching or rubbing one's genitals up against a non-consenting partner in a sexual manner. Ew. Ew. Pedophilia is any sexual activity with a prepubescent child with offender patient at least 16 years of age. And the victim is at least 5 years younger. Exhibitionism is the exposure of an individual's genitalia to unsuspecting strangers for sexual satisfaction. Voyeurism is the viewing of unsuspecting person engaging in disrobing or sexual activity. And understand that there are a lot of crossovers. So somebody who has transvestic fetishism is very likely to have some crossovers with some of these other things. Same thing with autogynephilia. That's why you have men, you know, who purposely join sports teams, like the issue we have with the 50-year-old swimmer up in Canada, who then goes and gets changed in the girls' locker rooms. Okay, he probably also has an exhibitionist paraphilia. Yeah, Kai has a YouTube channel. Definitely follow that. Let's see. Sexual sadism is when sexual arousal is gained from inflicting mental or physical suffering on a non-consenting person. Sexual masochism is the deviation of sexual or the derivation of sexual arousal from being the recipient of physical or mental abuse and humiliation. So a lot of these dudes have humiliation fetishes. Some of them are sadists. Frauderism is the touching or rubbing against a non-consenting person. Fetishism is the use of non-living. So frauderism is probably like what's his name? Damn it, what's the dude that Blair White had called out? The one who was trying to get his genitals waxed. That's probably like some manifestation of frauderism. Transvestic fetishism is a derivation of sexual arousal from cross-dressing or dressing in clothes of the opposite sex. Etiology. The exact etiology of paraphilia and paraphilic disorders is unknown. However, it is thought hold on 1 second. Sorry, I just wanted to see how many people are in here. Is a derivation of sexual. Okay, let's see. Where are we? The exact etiology of paraphilia and paraphilic disorders is unknown. However, it is thought that a combination of neurobiological, interpersonal, and cognitive processes all play a role. Literature also points towards various genetic factors contributing to the development of pedophilia and pedophilic disorder, with recent evidence displaying a positive correlation of the COMT polymorphism and paraphilic child sexual offenders. A recent study focusing on the neurotransmission of paraphilic disorders found evidence to suggest that central dopamine plays a key role in the pathogenesis of paraphilic disorders and the general disturbance of the conscious regulation of behavior. The results of this study revealed increased levels of serotonin and norepinephrine with a decreased concentration of DOPAC, 3,4-dihydroxyphenolactic acid, in urine samples of the test population diagnosed with paraphilic disorders. Researchers have established a correlation between serotonin and norepinephrine with excessive disturbances and an association of DOPAC with affective and dissociative disorders. Let's see. All right, so how to evaluate whether or not somebody has a paraphilia. The DSM-5 diagnostic criteria for paraphilia states explicitly that the patient must have experienced intense and recurrent sexual arousal from deviant fantasies for at least 6 months and must have acted on these impulses. A paraphilia becomes a pathology or a paraphilic disorder only when this behavior causes significant distress and impairment in the functioning of the individual, or if the paraphilia involves personal harm or risk or harm to others. And again, you know, specifiers of, quote, in remission when distress or dysfunction is no longer caused. And I think that this is such a dangerous way to put it, because it's like, oh, as long as it's not causing like distress to the person, then it's fine and it should be allowed to like proliferate. And it's like, an uncontrolled environment exists for all paraphilias except, especially because we know that there's so many comorbidities. So it's like if you're not trying to derail it, it has the potential then to grow out and into other things and eventually turn into a paraphilic disorder.
if it goes unchecked. Specific, let's see. Specifiers specifically added to the exhibitionistic disorder include the exposure of one's genitals to prepubescent children, physically mature individuals, or both. The age of onset is typically before 18 years of age. Specifiers specifically added to the sexual masochistic disorder include asphyxiophilia, which is like choking, autoerotic asphyxiation, which is when you choke yourself while you masturbate. Specifiers added specifically to the fetishistic order include body parts, non-living parts, others. Specifiers added specifically to the transvestic disorder include fetishism if aroused by fabrics, materials, or garments, and autogynephilia if aroused by thoughts or images of himself as a female. So this is a paraphilia. This is a paraphilia. Other diagnostic tools, including laboratory values, tests, and imaging, should also be into. We gotta gatekeep these things. Once we start normalizing this stuff is like a sexuality and it becomes protected and all this sort of, we've got to not allow these idiot. It's like Phil's not even the most dangerous one, right? Phil's just the one who's out of control. He's the catalyst, but it's these other idiot. These women, these like neutral women, these fence sitter women and Benjamin Boyce and all these people who are, giving a voice to this and legitimizing it. They're the real danger. Genspect is the danger. These people can only, do so as much as they can, but with people to enable them, then is when, they can really make progress in destroying the, society. Okay, blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah. All right, cool. No one gives a shit. So there you go. Oh, Stephanie Winn. Let's hear more from Stephanie. Here we go.
And it's just, using the word paraphilia or fetish generally just has the moral connotations, or it's just like, it's a sexuality we don't like. It's sort of how it's used.
Yeah.
No.
And a fetish would be something with a little extra bells and whistles, or a kink. That's another.
A fetish is an abnormal sexual preoccupation with, again, bizarre things, okay? Sexuality is being sexually attracted to one of either of the two sexes in humans. That's normal. It's normal to be sexually attracted to a human being, right? To an adult human being, a sexually mature, consenting human being. It is not normal to be sexually aroused by wearing clothing. That's the difference. It's literally that simple.
Right. Implies a kind of a special thing or like some sort of targeted fixation.
He doesn't know. He's like, look, I couldn't. Let me make this up as I go along.
Those terms are generally in common speech. They're used just to talk about sexual interests that.
In common speech, I hate hearing these retards try to sound like intellectual and like legit. I hate it. 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 And you have all these dopey people in the comments who are like, oh, wow. Everybody who thinks Isaac Uncooked is a genius. I'm like, for the love of God. You know what I mean? Exatlantic is really smart, I just think that she's profoundly immature, and I think that she doesn't understand the extent to her intelligence. I think she has a concentrated intelligence, and she's far too arrogant, has too much ego to recognize that she has limitations to her intelligence. So she tries to be an authority on everything, where she just stuck to what she's good at and acknowledged her weakness in other areas and be willing to learn and listen to other people, then I think she would be, much better as somebody. But she discredits herself when she tries to be, this universal expert and just lies to the point where it's you lose your credibility when you have to lie and mislead just so you're always right.
You shouldn't count as important
as the other,
as the more conventional ones. Yeah. But, it can be hard to differentiate.
I have an orientation towards women, but a fetish for women in high heels. Right? That sounds funny.
That's not a fetish though, boys. That's just an attraction. You're attracted to seeing women. The reason why you like high heels is because it shapes their butt and their legs. You're still attracted to the woman. You're not trying to have sex with the shoe, right? That's not a fetish. That's just an attraction. His is a fetish where that's his whole like sexual experience is him being in the dress. That's the difference.
Used.
Right, like, yeah, you could, that is one way of using it.
Isaac is so lame. I ripped him a new asshole under his channel and he like blocked my comments. And like after I did it, I wrote him this long comment where I like dismantled the shit out of him. He like within an hour posted a video of himself crying saying, "Why are you guys so mean?" And he pinned my comment. It's like, "Look how mean this is." And I was like, bro, everything I told him that he should do the right thing and get a vasectomy. That man belongs nowhere and stay away from women. And people are like, "I hope you have a child one day." I was like, how evil do you have to be to wish a poor innocent child on this lunatic? He has no right. He's very, very immature. And I'm realizing. And he's like an agoraphobe. God, there's so many lunatics in this community. But anyway.
Or like how in common speech it would be used.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't expect to see that type of language in like a sexology paper, but definitely in terms of common speech.
And your book, Auto-Heterosexual.
I have physical
Attracted
copies
to
now.
Being.
Nobody purchased this book. Nobody purchased this book.
Attracted to being what?
Attracted to being the other sex.
The other sex, the opposite sex. Which is, it straddles the line between, I mean, just the tone of it is common. You're addressing like the lay reader, but you draw upon a lot of research. So you're dealing with research or sexologist frameworks and then building an argument.
Translating it into normie speak.
Into normie speak, yeah.
He's reading a bunch of PubMed like abstracts. He's like doing what I'm doing. And then adding his own anecdotal crap and whatever, he wants to kind of manipulate. Like, and then, I'm so intelligent that I've got to like translate it to normie speak. Bro, stop it.
The best I can.
Yeah. And how has that process been for you, going through the whole book? Researching it.
But it was a big intellectual journey.
I bet.
And I mean, also emotional journey in the sense of having to, come to terms with having the orientation that I didn't know about. And then also, once I'm open about it, having to deal with other people that have the orientation telling me that it doesn't exist.
Is that a part of the orientation? It's kind of like Schrodinger's orientation. Like it only exists, but you can't mention it.
I can't stand it. Let's quick look at the Rudy one. It's a whole bunch of nothing, too.
Hello and welcome to Conversations with the Voice of Reason. I'm your host, Benjamin Boyce, and today's conversants are Rudy.
He is 1000% porn sick and a drug addict and just a narcissist and cringe.
And Phil Illy, who is a Portland-based researcher who's written extensively about
Look, Isaac has done good work, but he just completely like spiraled off. But I always kind of saw him as not quite as brilliant as everyone made him out to be. But I acknowledged where he had like some interesting videos, and I loved his call to his therapist. He had some good literature reviews, but then just got so weird. But I called it a long time ago. I called him out a long time ago. I was like, you need to stop the shit that you're on. Whatever you're doing, it's so unethical. Having these like meltdowns and then begging people for money, and you're totally just taking advantage of all these other like lonely people who are developing like a parasocial attachment to you. Whatever.
A Twitter dust up because it shows the line.
Oh, wait, here.
Hello and welcome to Conversations with the Voice of Reason. I'm your host, Benjamin Boyce, and today's conversants are Rudy, who is a Scottish gay rights activist and art designer, or graphic designer, and Phil Illy, who is a Portland-based researcher who's written extensively about autogynephilia. What happened a couple weeks ago at the Genspect conference was that Phil was present, and a photo of him with a detransitioner was taken at the event, and then a few days after the event created a dust storm on Twitter where a number of people who are in the feminist/female camp took issue with Phil's dress.
Oh, Isaac comes off as such an abuser, and his girlfriend comes off as totally unstable. Neither of them should have children. I said, Isaac, please, I'm begging you to get a vasectomy. I'm begging you to do the right thing, get a vasectomy. Don't ever put another woman through this. And dear God, do not bring a child into this world. He was talking about how she was so ungrateful because he spent all of his money for $1,000 down payment on an apartment, and she wasn't even thankful, and that was all his money. And you're in your 30s. I haven't worked. I can't go outside. I'm so sick. He's like an agoraphobe and a hypochondriac. And he sounds so abusive, and he's like, I tried so hard to be nice to this bitch, and she just fucking doesn't get it. It's one of those, I was such a nice guy, the little bitch. And I'm like, wow, you are mentally ill. And what is she doing still? She keeps getting pregnant with him. And we can try again after her first abortion. Both of them need. His first thing was and then I realized we had to go tell my parents and have her tell her parents. Why is that your first? It's your child. Why is it your first move? Is got to tell our parents so they can help us out. No, you're not ready, sir. And in fact, please just don't ever have kids ever.
And asserted that he was violating women's safety by performing femininity or appropriating femininity. And in this conversation, Rudy takes the mantle of that criticism and complaint about Phil, and Phil endeavors...
No. Nobody's saying he's appropriating femininity. Femininity is something that men can perform because they pretty much created it, right? Performative femininity. The issue is that Genspect is attracting these type of people. That's the real issue. Is that what is it about Genspect that's attracting people who feel so comfortable openly parading around their sexual paraphilias and pushing their book onto people? And not only that, but then Genspect going and co-signing it by reposting it and recommending his book. Beyond irresponsible, all of you. And Benjamin Boyce is an adjunct to Genspect. He's part of their media arm of Genspect. So of course they're all protecting each other, and Exelanzic desperately wants to be in with that group. It's again, Exelanzic, do you not remember how Benjamin Boyce was part of a coordinated effort to take down your channel? But you're that desperate to just belong to the in-group of cool kids? Never mind that you acknowledged what a threat Genspect was? That you acknowledged that Genspect, had very underhanded motives and stuff back when you were desperately puppy dogging after Karen Davis, desperately wanting her approval. Get a spine, fucking get some ethics. But no offense, but somebody who will lie and mislead about being a pathologist and who does all of these mental gymnastics so that you're always right under every circumstance, it's there's only so much you can do with that. Somebody who has such an ego that they just cannot ever allow themselves to be wrong, it's how far can you go? There's so many people who are involved in, I guess, being figures. And I got to check myself because I'm getting so annoyed with everybody. But there's just so many people that I just I was talking to Jen, who I love, Jennifer Thomas, and I don't agree with everything with Jen. Same with Karen, but I was you guys are the only people that I can find that fucking make any sense. It's I'm starting to lose my trust in everybody. Amy Souza is another one who is amazing. Thank God for Amy. Thank God for Jen and Karen and a few other people who truly are holding the line. But it's scary how much this has revealed how few and far between these women really are, who are really, really holding the line. And, Posey Parker and, Aja the Empress, thank God for them.
to explain his position, not only his aesthetics, but his position on what autogynephilia is. I find this conversation to be more interesting than just a Twitter dust-up.
Yeah, I agree with you, woman. I think it's like now that the veil's been, I think she has such a strong command of language, and she's able to speak about these really niche topics, and biology and stuff. And I feel like it's like because maybe we don't know better, because we don't know these topics that well, we're so enamored, and the way she speaks about it, and no offense, it's like she makes like, there was a time where she made like no effort like with her appearance, or she would just like wear really bizarre things. You're like, oh wow, like she must be kind of like, amazing. I don't know what it was, but now it's like, now that I'm kind of like seeing beyond it, and not to say that she doesn't have some truly brilliant, takes, like she does. Like there's moments where she's actually like brilliant and has these like moments. And it's like, but then it's like all the pretending and stuff. And it's like, you got to pretend to be something that you're not just so that your voice has more weight. It just like kind of turns me off to everything. And then it makes you question everything that she says. It's like, there's truth sprinkled in with like bullshit. And you've got to like, figure out how to like wade through and figure out which is which.
Because it shows the line between morality and science, or describing behavior and judging behavior. And that's what we get into. That's what we drill down into. And everybody is welcome to have their opinion. I hope that we can be reasonable in how we deliver that opinion and then come to some sort of cultural consensus.
Yeah. Shut up, boys.
That's Twitter jail. I don't know. It's a free speech platform still, somewhat.
And Boyce is so annoying the whole time. So it's basically what pissed me off is it was like a 2-versus-1, right? So it was Boyce and Phil versus Rudy. And it's like, Boyce, if you wanted it to be 2-versus-1, rather than ganging up on Rudy, you should have let me tap in. Me and Rudy could have taken the two of y'all, right? I would have tapped in. Or had me and Karen Davis or something. Or you know what I mean? Or I would have sat there with Rudy. It was bullshit that like the two of you sat there and ganged up on him the whole time. And no offense, it's like Rudy's such a sweetheart, and he was right, 100% right. I don't know what his experience is with debating. And I think that, he really did his best to hold his own, and he won. He won in the sense that his position was the correct one. I just think that he might have needed some help really like articulating his position in a way to defeat the sort of like fake mental gymnastics that you two were pulling, all the stunts you were pulling to like, confuse the issues and make it seem like you were, making Rudy like stumble, when he wasn't. It's like he's following into your arguments too much. And that was what they were designed to do, to confuse you and throw him off his square, and I could have helped him like recenter. It was just bullshit. Yeah, Benjamin he's true trans. They're TRAs. Like
so
really.
Rudy, meet Phil. Phil meet Rudy. Just for the sake of having a conversation, would you guys mind like introducing each other to each other, or yourselves to each other? And we'll
Boyce is 1,000% Gamp. I 100% get Gamp vibes from Boyce as well, or bisexual, maybe even bisexual, because he gets real giddy and excited whenever Phil's around. Like he gets like looks like a schoolgirl with a crush.
Sort of discourse,
right? Yeah. I guess I'll start. Rudy, I'm an autogynephilic male who wrote a book on autogynephilia and autoandrophilia, and I wore a blue dress at the gender conference, and it was against the unwritten rules, and now I'm in Twitter trouble.
That Twitter jail,
yeah, I don't know.
It's a free speech platform still, somewhat.
Oh yeah, you're not in Twitter jail, are you? I've barely been on Twitter the past few days because I've been sick, so you're still very much on Twitter, right?
I like when Rudy calls him out because he's like, well, yeah. It's just him being hyperbolic. It's like when Eva Korolova was like she like retweeted, like she tweeted like thought criminal, like me and Lois are thought criminals. And I was like, no, you idiot. Thought criminals are when, like, let me see if I can find that. Hold on. Hold on.
Yeah, no, I meant like I'm getting mobbed. Yeah, like, where everyone's mad.
I was one of those people. Yep, I was one of those people.
I
don't
love
know
him.
if you saw. Did you
I
see my
love
tweet
Rudy.
about you?
And for the record, shout out to Rudy. I adore him. I'm so grateful for him. And I'm so grateful for him stepping up. I think they really set him up by doing the two of them versus him. And they just played so many games with him and so many intellectual like games, and it pissed me off. But shout out to Rudy. He really, really like held his own, and I'm grateful for him. And I wish I could have been there to like actually support him during this debate.
I mean, there's a lot of them. Oh, yeah, I think you posted a long tweet at some point. When you're getting, like, all the stuff gets lost in the noise, they can't keep track of who says what.
It's difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand that. That happens to me. It happens to me from time to time. So I get it if you didn't.
Yeah, would you like to just do your basic introduction, like your vector of coming into this, and then maybe your opening statement? We don't have to do it like a debate, but it'd be nice to like get like kind of the grounding here.
Yeah. So I'm Rudy, as you know. I'm a gay man. I'm very open about being gender critical. Although I do.
Wait, really quick. Hold on. I just found it. So Eva Korolova, this is exactly what Phil just did. He was like, yeah, I was in Twitter jail. And Rudy was like, no, you weren't. I thought I just saw you on Twitter. He's like, oh, well, not like literally. I wasn't he's trying to pretend like he's being censored. Sir, women using their free speech to call you out on your shit is not you being censored. It's not you, being thought policed. That's the whole point, is the discourse. It's the debate. You're allowed to use your voice, so are women. You using your voice does not guarantee that other people are going to have to just agree with you and not express their own discontent. Yeah, that's not the same. So it's the same thing like Eva Korolova, like when we were all calling her out for like the bullshit stunt she was playing with that like creepo like Lois that she's best friends with, throwing that weirdo in everyone's face when we were calling out the AGP Gate Part 2 with Kathleen Stock and Julie Bindel. So she blocked me, but the post here says like thought criminal. Like, oh, I didn't know I was a thought criminal. Like saying that we were all like, I said, no, Eva. I know it seems to be a favored strategy of yours to get hyperbolic. Wait, hold on. To get hyperbolic and play victim when women use their right to speech to express disagreement with you. But let me help you. Thought criminal would be the women who were literally arrested for stating the definition of a woman. Or the small businesses in New York City who are being fined large sums of money in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, upwards of $300,000 for misgendering. Or the employees whose gender critical tweets are dredged up and used in their firing. Or the students who are removed from school for dead naming. Just because a few women express disapproval with some of your ideas, Just because a few women express disapproval with some of your ideas and disagree with some of your behavior as it relates to the gender-critical women's movement does not make you a thought criminal. And no, lovely, overprivileged girl, you are not actually a victim. I know, this may be hard for you to hear, so take all the time you need. Unlike women who have actually faced legal and social ramifications for their ideas, you have strengthened your career and social capital through your more mainstream fence-sitting views regarding trans people. In fact, yours is the position that is most permissible within the context of gender-critical ideas as a whole. Women are allowed to have boundaries, Eva, and it doesn't make you a victim when those boundaries place you on the other side. And then I said, y'all, please feel free to provide examples of actual gender-critical thought criminals so we can... Oh, wait, hold on. So we can help Eva discern the difference between the mild Twitter pushback she received and what is actually happening out there with women who express wrongthink. So I said, I posted a whole bunch of things. So it was like UK mother arrested and locked in cell after calling a transgender woman a man. That's a thought criminal, my darling. Hope this helps clarify what a thought criminal actually is at Eva Korolova. Hint, it's not someone who experienced mild disapproval from a small group of women on Twitter. UK school chaplain fired, reported as terrorist for sermon questioning LGBTQ activities. That's a thought criminal. Eva, not a few women be like, no, we think that you're being a clown on Twitter, who aren't reporting you, they're not getting you deplatformed, they're not mobbing you. It's like the hyperbole. At the Posey Parker was investigated by police for her tweets. Again, not the same as women using their free speech to challenge you on your ideas and behavior and offer their own takes at Eva Korolova. Second woman is being investigated by police regarding following allegations that she made transphobic comments on social media. That was with Posey Parker. Here's another example. Cop faces formal hearing and faces termination for accurately identifying a man as a man during a traffic stop. CPD detective who tweeted selfie at Ariana Grande under investigation for transphobic comments. Here's another example. Thames Valley Police have called for witnesses after a slew of transphobic stickers were posted around Oxford city centre. In a statement on their website, Thames Valley Police referred to the posting of the stickers as a public offence, with stickers being placed around High Street, Cat Street, and parks around road areas from March 2019 onwards. Investigating officer PC Rebecca Nightingale said behavior like this is not acceptable, and we take incidents of this nature very seriously, and called for anyone who had witnessed the placing of the stickers to call the non-emergency, basically 911 number, the 101 number. The stickers are thought to have been largely posted by a group known as trans-exclusionary radical feminists, or TERFs, and include comments such as woman, noun, adult human, female, and women don't have penises, as well as autogynephilia. Do you understand are you picking up what I'm putting down, Eva? Let's look at a few more. Same thing with you, boys. You guys are like these perpetual victims, clowns. Oh, we're like being thought criminals. No, people are just fucking calling you out. That's not policing. That's not no debate. No debate is when, like, literally people were being deplatformed for even bringing this stuff up. Quote, keep males out of women-only spaces sticker picture investigated as a hate crime. So for someone posted a sticker that said keep males out of women-only spaces, now being investigated as a hate crime in the UK. Pensioner questioned given long lecture by police for taking image of slogan over fears of causing harassment and alarm. Side Ziegler of SB Nation's Outdoor Outsports reported on Schilling's social media activity Tuesday, including an offensive image in his comments from Monday, which were as follows. Quote, a man is a man no matter what they call themselves. I don't care what they are, who they sleep with. Men's room was designed for the penis, women's not so much. Now you need laws telling us differently. Pathetic. ESPN announced its firing of Schilling on Wednesday, per Richard Sandomir of the New York Times. Quote, ESPN is an inclusive company. Kurt Schilling has been advised that his conduct was unacceptable and his employment with ESPN has been terminated, ESPN said in a statement per Sandomir. Mother claims she lost her job, was called, quote, anti-trans after opposing sexual ideology in schools. Breaking news. A Canadian doctor is forbidden from working for 3 months because he misgendered a woman who pretends she's a man. So those are examples of thought criminals, okay? A few women challenging you on Twitter is not being a thought criminal, all right? Just, thought that might help. You guys are such clowns. Here we go.
I do go to a lot of women's rights.
Oh, let's just hear.
Yeah, would you like to just do your basic introduction, like your vector of coming into this, and then maybe your opening statement? We don't have to do it like a debate, but it'd be nice to get kind of the grounding here.
Yeah. So I'm Rudy, as you know. I'm a gay man. I'm very open about being.
Yeah, would you like?
Or JLR?
Oh yeah, he had a call. Sorry.
So Rudy, meet Phil. Phil, meet Rudy. Just for, well, I guess just for the sake of having a conversation, what
Rudy was honestly so much. Phil was so smug and pretentious this whole thing, and it was just kind of like, calm down, like, oh God.
Would you guys mind like introducing each other to each other or yourselves to each other, and we'll figure out the vector of discourse.
Right. Yeah. I guess I'll start. Rudy, I'm an autogynephilic male who wrote a book on autogynephilia and autoandrophilia, and I wore a blue dress at the gender conference, and it was against the unwritten rules, and now I'm in Twitter trouble.
That Twitter jail,
Yeah,
though,
I don't know.
because it's a free speech platform still.
Twitter jail.
Oh yeah, you're not in Twitter jail, are you? I've barely been on Twitter the past few days because I've been sick. So you're still very much on Twitter, right?
Yeah, no, I meant like I'm getting mobbed.
He loves it. Look
Yeah,
at the smile.
like,
He
yeah,
loves
where
it.
everyone's mad.
I was one of those people. Yep, I was one of those people. I don't know if you saw. Did you see my tweet about you?
All right, let's get into it a little bit more.
What's the basic? I guess what's the line in the sand or the basic intention?
Of my position?
Yeah, the position.
Yeah, to me, it's like being gender critical. To me, it's one of the most important parts of that is the fact that I've always believed, even before TERF was a word, even before the current culture war, that men can wear pretty much whatever they like in public, and so can women. And because your attire doesn't make you a man or a woman, right? If a man wants to walk down the street in heels, I could not care less. My issue with this whole thing is that I felt like, and Phil's not the first person I've seen do this, but it's probably the one that's had the biggest reaction that I've seen online. My issue with Phil's approach was that you, and correct me if I'm wrong, were trying to make it seem like that's all you were being criticized for, is wearing stereotypically female garments, when you call yourself an autogynephile, which means you get turned on by this. And so imagine if me as a gay man...
What do you... So every time you see a man, do you get turned on? Like every single time you see a man, are you like, wow, I'm turned on right now?
Oh, we're going there. No, absolutely not.
No, I'm just pointing out that like autogynephilia, like other sexual orientations, means it's a propensity
Like
for
other
arousal to a certain type of stimuli.
Yeah,
Damn it, like other
Print?
sexual orientations. It's so ridiculous. And the smug way that he's talking, like he's like, you know, informing you of how it really is, just making shit up as he goes along. It's such clownery.
Having an autosexual orientation where you're not attracted to an object, like you are a self, you're a being. And
it's still not an orientation.
No, it is though.
No.
It is. I think you just have
not.
a really... No, your definition is probably politically motivated rather than like the science of psychology.
I've dealt with like fake smart people, I feel like, my whole life. Yeah, but no, it is. I feel like your definition is probably, it's like he's just sitting there like the stupid, like speaking down the mansplaining. I know, no, it is. I feel like your definition is probably politically motivated. It's actually, and he's just gonna like, again, and so much of this academic shit, it shifts all the time. It was all written by men, just like Phil Illy, real condescending, and it's like they're just making shit up. That's why the DSM is such a mess. That's why psychiatry is such a mess. Psychology, there's so few consensus, and it's like just, you know, oh God, speaking with such authority on stuff that they're just making up because it benefits him that way. And it's like whoever can speak with the most authority, you know, it wins the prize and gets to set the narrative.
Motivated.
It's not politically motivated. My definition of what a sexual orientation is is based on reality. There are 3 sexual orientations, right?
Correct.
Homosexual, heterosexual, and
Correct.
bisexual, and they refer to who you are attracted to. It has nothing to do with what gets you going based on what garments you wear. That's not a sexual orientation. It literally orientates you towards others, right? Sexual orientation.
Usually it's usually externally oriented, but sometimes for some reason there's an inborn predisposition for it to be in.
No. What do you mean an inborn predisposition? No, there's no proof that autogynephilia, which you don't have, you're a transvestic fetishist. You just use autogynephilia for the shock factor because you're a histrionic clown, literally. There is no proof that there is an inborn thing. Like, continue.
Internally oriented.
But again, it's like, and unfortunately, and I love Rudy to death, but like he's not really equipped to challenge a lot of these things, because I don't think that he's actually like read all of, like, you know, this literature and stuff and can't counter it. We can't let this guy, and again, this is why it's so irresponsible, because he just knows, you know, he's able to speak on this real niche topic, and he can just use some big words that sounds convincing. He sounds like he's speaking with authority. People are like, oh wow, well he must know what he's talking about, because I don't know any of this stuff, and he sounds like it makes sense. And this is why this stuff is dangerous, and you can't just put him out front and let him guide the conversation. Okay? Like, because these people are master manipulators. Master manipulators. He's a literal clown performer. Like, I'll pull up some pictures.
And then it makes you want to become whatever it is that you're attracted to.
Right. So here's my thing. So when you turn up to an event, right?
I know. Sweet Sea Monster says, I like how it looks like Brittany is talking with them now. I know. I'm in the conversation, and I'm in front of everybody. I'm at the top, and I'm in the convo.
Full of women, or just anything, anywhere where there's a large group of women, right? And you are dressed up. The issue isn't so much that you're wearing a dress. I honestly don't care that you're wearing a dress. It's the fact that you're wearing it around the people who are the object of your fetish, while you've already admitted that this is your fetish.
So I could only wear a dress in a man's only environment, you're saying? I can only wear a dress if it's only men around. Is that what you're saying?
No, what I'm
saying
saying
I think
is,
we need to not frame this of whether or not he's allowed to or not. I think what this conversation needs to be framed is why women and men should want to not be around him. It's not that he's not allowed to do it, right? We don't want laws not allowing people to do it. It needs to be framed as to why men like him shouldn't be included in conferences and conversations around gender critical safeguarding, because we don't need to convolute this very crucial conversation with their opinions that are self-motivated and that are self-interested and sexually motivated, right? And that women have the right and should start to exercise their right to, like, publicly and loudly articulate and shame these men and stay away from them, right? And that he should have been ostracized, and it's really Genspect who's the problem for putting him out in front, co-signing him. And the reasons why for that is, again, because this is just the tip of the iceberg. And of course, the more that we found out about him, the more we found out how sexually, like, deviant he really is.
You should not be wearing a dress in public whatsoever, ever, around anyone, because, including here right now.
And it's true. Honestly, no, they shouldn't. We have to accept the fact that there is such thing as sexed clothing. And it comes down to clothing that is literally made for the bodies of women. Okay, you know why it's fucking wrong? And here, look at Benjamin Boyce's stupid face that he's, what are you talking about? Here's why it's a problem, Benjamin. I'm a mother of 4 children. I have, let's see, I have 5 living nieces and nephews, 6 total, okay? Let me help you out. I need to be able to make very snap judgment about who is safe and who is dangerous. I need to be able, and as a woman, as a mother, and every woman needs to be able to visually identify very quickly whether or not someone looks like they are potentially dangerous. The fact that you're wearing the dress is a signal to me and every other woman that there is something gravely and severely perverted about you, and sexually deviant about you and potentially very dangerous about you. And I don't have the interest or the time to get to know you better to see if my instincts are correct. I need to just get out of there. So for men who have any respect for women and how we have to constantly be on edge, women could go walk around topless at 3 a.m. if it weren't for men. Women could get naked and run through the streets and fall asleep on a bench and take a nap nude if it weren't for men. You two, thank God for Rudy, right? Thank God for men like Kai Decadence. Thank God for men like Rudy who actually respect what women go through, because these two don't get it. They don't get what it's like to constantly be on edge. And I say this all the time. When you're walking on a dark street and you're coming up to an alleyway that's dark and looks scary, and you get that little pang of nervousness and you're by yourself and you like kind of like grip onto your phone just in case you need to call like 911 or whatever, and you start walking faster and you're breathing heavier, what is it that you're imagining might be behind that in that alley? Is it that you're scared a woman with a stroller is going to pop out? A woman with 2 toddlers with her might pop out and get you? No. You're worried that there will be men or adolescent, teenage boys or men of any age behind that corner. You're not worried about a woman. You don't know what it's like because you are not at risk. Look at Boyce and look at Phil. Do they look like anybody's target? No. And gay men are probably targeted too in ways that these 2 men aren't. So if you had any respect for women and the anxiety that we have to kind of hold on to all the time, you would recognize how critically important it is for us to be able to quickly visually identify when someone's a danger, when someone's a threat. And you wouldn't play games with that. You would keep strong boundaries so that we can know for sure that you're safe, so you don't have us feeling on edge.